Council meeting to order on the 17th of June, my wife's birthday, 2026, at 6:05 according to that wall clock. And at this point in time, I'd like everyone to participate and join me with the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And if the clerk could please roll call.
Vice Mayor Lowe. Councilmember Dean.
Here.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas.
Here.
Councilmember Gurney.
Here.
Mayor Wellander.
Here.
Thank you.
We did have, we did have a closed session, but we have nothing to report out. And with that, I'm coming back to the dais looking for approval of the agenda as written. Do I have any comments or desired changes?
I move to approve that agenda.
I'll second.
Very good. Any discussion beyond that? I always forget. We don't need public comment on that. So I'm just going to go straight and say we're going to make a voice call on this one. So all that people in favor of the agenda say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're moving on to the comments from the public on items not appearing on the agenda this evening. The requisite is that the comments need to be within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the council. We do it twice. We have an opportunity for the first 10 individuals that wish to come forward and speak. You will be given 2 minutes, and should there be more than 10, we're going to have a second opportunity at the end of the agenda this evening for those that did not make the cut, so to speak. So for those that would like to speak, please come forward, state your name, and you have 2 minutes, and you're welcome to come.
Hello, my name is John Coakley. I'm just speaking on a matter today on behalf of my father. He owns a property on 673 2nd Street West, and a while ago he bought the property with my uncle and they split it into two. My uncle's building a single-family residential home there right now. My dad's zoning has changed. My dad got really sick about 2-3 years ago, and he was in and out of hospitals and all that stuff, and I just took over his affairs about 2 months ago. But in the meantime, the permits for that property had expired, and they expired in December, and I wasn't aware of any of this. So after taking over his affairs, I started to look more into it, and I was trying to build a house there, and he's had to retire all of a sudden, basically, and now the property's not worth much, and this is basically what he has for his retirement. The way it is, I'm just wondering if I can try to get the permits reinstated the way they were. As of what I was told, when my uncle and my dad changed it from commercial to single-family home back in the day, they got nothing but support from the neighborhood. All the neighbors are telling me right now that they don't want a commercial property in there. They want a single-family home. No one wants a big building there, and I just want to try to rectify this for my dad so he's be able to retire and stuff. About a month ago, I was here and I spoke at the planning commission meeting. I didn't hear much back from that, and that's why I'm here again tonight. And hopefully I can get something way forward in this situation. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Please.
Hi, I'm Jeannie, and I live on Manor Drive, and there's a path, a bridge that was built before we moved in from Friar Creek. It crosses, then the path crosses Manor Drive, and then the path continues to Little Park. There's no white lines indicating that it's a crosswalk, and Manor curves So that's a blind crosswalk. There's no signage, no pedexing, no anything. And I walk it all the time. It's a little scary, and I'm from New York City. So just if somebody wants to get out a paint can and put in some pedexing and some white lines, that would be really nice.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, I'm not seeing any more movement, so anybody from, are we on Zoom? We're not on Zoom, are we? Anyone wishing to speak? Thank you. So I'll close the public comment at this point, and we'll segue into meeting dedications.
Mayor, I do have the one dedication. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to dedicate tonight's Sonoma City Council meeting to Richard L. Katz. Telemark resident Richard Katz, who preferred to be called Dick Katz, passed away on April 25th, 2026, after a month-long struggle to recover from a fall. Dick was a well-known, highly skilled trial attorney who practiced the law in San Francisco and Marin County for more than 40 years. He was also the passionate writer and having published a novel and written multiple screenplays. Dick moved to Sonoma in 2019, where he was active member of Tamilak Homeowners Association. Dick loved to play golf and petanque in Sonoma. Thank you for coming today, in many petanque and members. He was also active as a member of the Valley of the Moon Petanque Club, even after he lost the use his right hand from a stroke. He learned to play successfully with his left hand. Dick also loved to travel, drink delicious wine, and meet new people, making friends all over the world. Dick is survived by his daughters, Natasha and Irina, granddaughters, Zoe, and by his brother, David Katz, who lives in Sonoma, and niece, Lisa. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good, thank you. We'll move on. We'll now move on to City Council reports and comments. Would someone wish to volunteer to break ice? Don't jump all at once.
All right, here we go. So, on June 4th, I attended the board meeting for Sonoma Clean Power Association. We'll let folks wander out. And just wanted to let people know, as there's been an update to Sonoma, for those of you that have Sonoma Clean Power as your generation provider. I think that I encourage everybody to utilize Sonoma Clean Power. They've updated their customer service policy so that any notices that go to Sonoma Clean Power for late payment, before being referred back to PG&E, they will start reaching out to people and calling people. So they're really trying to and help work with people that have issues where they might not be able to pay their electricity bill. And they've also changed it so that during any state of emergency, that they will halt any collection activity that they're doing at that time for eligible customers for a period of 12 months. Then also just wanted to let folks know that in the middle of May, there was the California Community Choice Association meeting that was held in Sacramento, had 1,000 attendees, and it's because it's the 10th anniversary for California Community Choice Association. And that is, there's 24 individual members of that association from all over California. In regards to legislative efforts, I will just do a quick update. I've been talking over the last reports during the third week meetings that we have of legislation. We're trying to get through state legislature to support geothermal work. And there's a number of different bills that are going through, actually seem to be moving through the legislative process. So that is good, and it's just a process that will help geothermal in California be able to do the initial exploratory work with less CEQA if they meet certain requirements, and they don't have to do CEQA. So that allows for companies to come in more. It's easier for them when they're not going to have to do two CEQAs. Once they've done exploration and said, yes, we can do a geothermal project here, of course, then they would, yes, have to go through CEQA. But this just allows that process to go faster and will allow more potential operators to come in and bid for those type of projects. And then we also looking for legislation for a budget of funding to come out of potentially the Green Gas Reduction Fund for $40 million, which would actually help pay for an initial exploration plan, because currently in California, and I know I've said this before, but we have a new audience every time we're here. So, and hopefully on TV and in the radio and everything, but the thousands of people out there listening. But hopefully, what this $40 million does, would really, right now, we buy a lot of geothermal electricity from out of state, Nevada and Utah, and they have projects in, particularly in Utah, that has created great jobs for the state of Utah, provides electricity, good taxation for the state. So all of those efforts that we're trying to get it so that we are actually getting electricity from geothermal in California, from California, that could also save the state over $1 billion. Okay. Then the other thing is that we approved our integrated resource plan. So the California Public Utilities Commission every 2 years requires anybody that is providing electricity to customers like Sonoma Clean Power to be able to give a list of where they're going to procure power from. And so we did a list of where we're going to procure power from over the next 5 years. It's very complicated. There's a portfolio that I will be, once we've actually gotten this approved, I'll bring back and bring some talking points about that. There's one slight change. We're going to be focusing less on hydropower. One of the things we did, both myself and the mayor of Santa Rosa encouraged also Sonoma Clean Power to look at pumped hydro, which is another very inexpensive way to get electricity. But all of this is, an effort over the long run to be able to provide electricity 24 hours a day, ensure that that's there for everybody, but also to bring prices down for customers, especially customers of Sonoma Clean Power. Then that's Sonoma Clean Power on every other one is like 5 words each. So June 5th, I attended the KSVY radio and TV station community strategy session at Hannah. So that was great. That was wonderful to participate in. And on June 13th, along with many of my other council members, attended the opening of the first Transcendence Theater show. So that was fun. I'm going to the show on the 20th, but at least I was able to go there for the kickoff. And then also attended on June, this Sunday, Pride on the Plaza, which was an absolutely amazing event. It was wonderful. It was joyful. There was so many members of the community there. Vice Mayor Sandra Lowe gave a very rabble-rousing, wonderful speech, which was great on behalf of the mayor, because the mayor was celebrating his wedding anniversary. So unfortunately could not be there. I know you would have been there. So, but it was really just an absolutely joyous, lovely day and made you really happy to be a Sonoman. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you. First of all, first meeting is Sonoma County Mayor and Council Association Legislative Committee meeting has been canceled for this month. But I would like to share and very important the information with everyone. Maybe Sandra already know that. Last Thursday, Democratic leaders in both houses announced a joint budget plan. So the proposal contains some potential wins for cities, such as some of the important investment in the homelessness program and the Proposition 36. So that is the good news. However, we always already got used to when the governor signed this bill, he always changes something, cut something, or remove something. We just wait. So we should keep out working, keep out and fighting, and for sure, and we can get reasonable, sufficient fund for those kind of area in need. The second one is June 7th. I was attending Gary Magnani the memorial service in the Memorial Park. That is amazing. We get together local people, a couple of hundred people, family members, friends gathered together. And the one thing I would like to share with everyone is, before he passed away, I worked with Gary and on a project in honor the memorial and parks, founder, that is Jim Parks. He passed away. He made a huge contribution for the park, and we want to get together, set up the monument for him. Yeah, we will build in the county the property, just narrow an island within the park. So right now, the Veteran Association, they already transferred this project to the Terry, so that in the future, and hopefully in the city, when people working with them, let this thing happen. Okay, that is on the June 5th. And outside the city, the group of people, total is 7 people, went to San Francisco to attend the 8th U.S. and China Sister City Summit. Yeah, that is the very, very, a good opportunity because we don't need to fly and we don't need to have the hotel. But most of the other members stay in San Francisco a couple of days. The 200 different sister cities between the China and America here and have the representative there. I got a chance to speak during this. It's not the main conference, is the so-called panel, speech. And I took this opportunity to introduce our sister cities during the past 15 years, our Sonoma's history, and welcome and everyone and come to visit Sonoma. It's a good opportunity to showcase our Sonoma. That is my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to my right?
Thank you. A couple of things. I did represent the mayor at the Gay Pride celebration, and I just want to say that this year it was really a 3-day celebration, including a dance at the General's Daughter, and there was something at the Sebastiani Theater, and it really, they had different vendors on the plaza that day and entertainment, and it really was, it's starting to look like more than just window dressing, if you will, about this thing. It was like really an event that I hope will grow, and the organizers did an excellent job, and people really seem to enjoy themselves. I was also able to represent, and I did shout out your wedding anniversary because love is love, you know what I'm saying? So that was good. And I was able to represent the mayor at the city council members and mayor's dinner last week and gave greetings from the city, and of the mayors who meet first were, there was an overview from PG&E by Jason Taormina, who's come here before. And I think the mayors gave him some very good questions. I mean, we always are very inquisitive about what PG&E is up to and have some suggestions for them. So that was very good. And it was very nice. I got to sit with some of the folks from the city of Cotati, who I always enjoy spending some time with, and also one of the representatives from the city of Cloverdale. We had some very spirited discussions at our table. I'm always honored to be part of that group. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor. And then I did attend the Sonoma County Transportation and Regional Climate Protection Authority, blah, blah, blah. You can look up their agenda and see what we covered. I'll just point out there's one thing that they are doing is they're putting in an app that is going to, it's sort of live now, but when it does go live, perhaps Sarah could put it on our website, people can use it. And it's an all-encompassing transit app, so it can help you plan how to get from Sonoma, for example, to Petaluma, which, you know, as you know, I'm constantly trying to make that route a little bit faster, if you will. But that's an improvement, you know, so people can do that. Of course, you know, there are apps on your phone that do the same thing, but this would be nice because it's dedicated to Sonoma County. And that's all I have to report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Last Thursday, I attended the Tourism Improvement District, and the takeaway probably evolves around the occupancy rate of 66% in the city of Sonoma, and that's an average. And our chairperson that kind of leads that meeting pointed out that that occupancy rate is actually better than the rest of the county, which is nice to hear. We also adopted a budget for the next fiscal year. We reduced it a little more conservatively to a 3% increase and moved some funds around so that they can provide additional funding for grant applications when they open that up. And those are grant applications to encourage visitors to Sonoma, and hotel room increases around the low season, which is obviously the winter time, and so they're moving ahead and quite excited about what the future holds. Thank you.
And I think I'm going to surprise my fellow council members and say I have nothing to report. Now, if our city manager would please give us an update from her perspective.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. I just want to begin by noting that city offices will be closed this Friday, June the 19th, in observance of Juneteenth, and that earlier this month, the City Council adopted a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth in the city of Sonoma. We encourage residents to take a moment to reflect on the significance of this important day in our nation's history and its ongoing relevance today. Summer Ready Sonoma. So the city recently launched Summer Ready Sonoma, a 4-week preparedness series designed to help residents to get ready for the summer season. You can find that info on the city's website. The first article just came out titled Understanding Summer Weather and Fire Weather Alerts, which was published last week and explains common alerts such as heat advisories, fire weather watches, and red flag warnings. Upcoming topics will cover evacuation zones and notifications, preparing for power outages, and building an emergency plan and supply kit at home. While we share preparedness information each year, the series is especially timely following last week's red flag warning and public safety power shutoff activity in portions of Sonoma Valley. Fortunately, there were no significant incidents that occurred last week. There are some prescribed burns coming up. California State Parks, CAL FIRE, and the Sonoma Valley Wildlands Collaborative are planning several prescribed burns throughout Sonoma Valley between June 17th and June 30th, weather permitting. So residents may see smoke associated with these carefully planned operations near Sugarloaf Ridge State Park, Jack London State Historic Park, and former Sonoma Developmental Center open space. These projects will help reduce wildfire fuels, improve habitat, and support long-term landscape health. Additional information is also available on the city's website and our social media channels. The transit survey is still out, so we want to encourage residents to participate in Sonoma County's Transit's Strategic Transit Plan Survey. Community input will help shape future transit services, including service to Sonoma Valley and the Route 32 Sonoma Shuttle. The survey is available in both English and Spanish, and participants can enter to win a $100 gift card. Okay, Sonoma Sundays, this Sunday, June 21st, will continue at the Plaza Amphitheater. Tommy Thompson and the Ambassadors of Western Swing will be playing. Many of you remember that Tommy was recognized by the City Council earlier this year. We're pleased to welcome him back as part of this free summer concert series presented by Music in Place and the city. I mentioned this last council meeting, but it's worth noting that we have published the city's first ever recreation and activity guide, which is now available online and has gotten some really positive feedback. The guide highlights summer camps, aquatic programs, special events, parks, and recreation opportunities that are available throughout Sonoma Valley. It's a great resource for residents looking to stay active and engaged this summer. Lastly, just a reminder that there will be no city council meeting on July 1st, and we're all getting ready for the July 4th holiday, which we look forward to. The information regarding events, schedules, road closure, volunteer opportunities, and donations is available through the Sonoma Volunteer Firefighters website, which is sonomavolunteerfirefighters.org. And I'm gonna leave the balance of my time and turn it over to City Clerk Rebecca Barr to give an update on the city's district elections process.
Good evening. I'm happy to be back with all of you, and as your elections official, it gives me great pleasure to give you an update on where we are here in the city. The first thing is, you probably all remember that we transitioned voluntarily to mitigate the potential risk of legal challenges, such as that were being faced by other cities at the time. Interestingly enough, the city of Cloverdale, you may have heard that they were served with a letter alleging potential violations of the California Voter Rights Act, and on June 10th, they adopted their resolution of intent to transition. Unfortunately, there will be some financial impact to them by having been receiving that letter. So we will be holding our first district-based election in November of this year, which marks a significant change from our previous at-large election system. The candidate nomination period will take place from July 13th through August 7th. Interested candidates this year, or this time, they must reside in the district that they wish to represent and be a registered voter. In order to pull nomination papers, they can contact my office and make an appointment to receive those nomination papers starting July 13th. We did, my phone number is on our website, but also we did set up a dedicated email, which is elections@sonomacity.org, that we can be contacted by. And something else that's going to be different this year is because all of the current seated council members were elected in the at-large system by voters throughout the entire city. And this is the first election which is going to be conducted in districts 1, 3, and 5. There's no incumbent that holds those seats. So even though you're seated, you were elected, you were elected by the city as a whole. So that'll be something that'll be a little different. That being said, the nomination period will not be extended, even if one of the current council members chooses not to run. The city, we've been conducting extensive public outreach throughout the transition process and continuing, and we'll continue to do that. We're offering information on district boundaries, candidate eligibility, nomination requirements, voter information, all leading up to the election. That outreach will include a postcard that's going to go to all residents, which is currently, I believe it's currently in the hands of our printer and will go out before the end of the month. A utility insert bill in July or August, and also myself, and I'm hoping I can get my deputy to come with me. We'll be in attendance at some of the Tuesday night markets coming up with a booth to help residents identify their districts and to answer questions. And that being said, one of the ways that we'll be doing that is we implemented a tool called, it's our district finder, and it allows individuals to input their address and locate their district. And once this election is complete, it'll also show who the current district council member representative. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on, I'm going to actually show you what that looks like. And so the district finder can be easily accessed from our homepage. If you scroll down to the frequently requested, it's this very first button that says Find Your Council District. And if you scroll down, there is a big green button that says Use the interactive searchable map to find your district by entering your address. But of note also is down below that, we worked with our GIS company that built the district finder to have very large scale maps printed and laminated, so that we'll have those at the farmers market for people that actually have people's address on them that's legible. But that being said, these maps are also here where they can download them and print them if someone's interested. You can see the maps, and you can see tiny here on this, but it does show everyone's addresses. In order to find where you're at, let me go back. You just click the button, and we had them add some tools because sometimes when you're using GIS, it's difficult to find because you're not sure how, if you put street or ST, so we had them put some tips, some address search tips to help people try and find their addresses. The best way to do it is always start with that your street number is required. So if you put in the first number of your address, you'll see the addresses come in, and we'll just pick the first one, and it tells you right away that that individual is in District 2. And at that time, in 2028, when there will be the election for Districts 2 and 4, then you would see that council member's name, that the current member in this place. Anyone who is interested or having trouble with this, they can contact our office and we can help walk them through and locate their district. And with that, we're looking forward to the election coming up. And again, anybody who is interested in, candidates interested in getting more information or making an appointment to pull papers, contact my office. My phone number 707-933-2216 or the elections@sonomacity.org. And with that, that's what I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else from our interim city manager, or should we pass it on to legal counsel? Mr. Attorney.
Well, like our esteemed mayor this evening, I have no report.
Thank you. This evening we have one presentation, and that presentation is going to be for the Sonoma Valley Fire District 2025 Annual Report and Fire Update by our Fire Chief, Mr. Steve Akre. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor Wellander, council, staff, and community. Very happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to share just a few highlights for our 2025 annual report. We do have links that are published within this and on our website for the full document, and I did provide hard copies for each of you because I know that some of the council members really appreciate that. It is a full and complete document, and I'm just going to hit some highlights. So 2025 at a glance, let's see. There There we go. So we completed another consolidation within the district, and that is with the Kenwood Fire District. And some may think that, you know, what does that have to do with the city of Sonoma? But it actually has a lot of relevance to the city of Sonoma because with being able to have them as part of our district and having a fully staffed paramedic engine company, when we have any significant incidents in the city, that engine company is the one that comes in and covers the city for any subsequent emergencies. So in the past, it was a 2-person engine company just staffed with EMTs. Now it is a 3-person engine company staffed with paramedics. So benefits to our whole entire system, including the city. We are fully staffed. You know, it's not an easy thing these days. Getting enough qualified firefighter paramedics and volunteers to help support our system and serve our community is becoming more and more challenging, but we are very thankfully fully staffed. We hired a number of new permanent firefighter positions, as well as 11 new volunteers to serve our community. So in addition to that, we also run 2 fire explorer posts, one in the north end of the valley and one here out of our city fire station, the Almaza Fire Station. And that is proven to be a really productive tool and avenue to gain recruitment opportunities that a lot of our explorers end up becoming volunteers, and then they end up becoming career members as well. Significantly, Measure H. This was year 2, but this was the first full year. And very pertinent here to the city is the Measure H funds that were allocated to the city allowed us to meet a need that had been identified for at least 10 years, which was to provide the 3rd firefighter paramedic on the city's engine company. And then equally of note, the ISO review, that's the Insurance Services Office. That's a national independent organization that grades and evaluates fire departments throughout the nation. We just successfully completed an evaluation which kept the city at the Class 1 level, which is the highest level of service for a fire department in a community. So we're very proud, because of the partnership that we have with the district and the city, to be able to maintain that level. And that'll tie in a little bit later here in a couple of slides. Let's see. By the numbers, so we responded to over 5,800 emergencies last year. Average response time was less than 5 minutes. 64% of those calls were EMS related. You can see by the incidents per district, the number of incidents in the city, 42% was our busiest district throughout our service area. Operations and EMS, trying to keep up here. We now have implemented some operational improvements countywide, including borderless dispatch. So whenever there's a fire resource that is closest to an emergency, regardless of their jurisdiction, they are dispatched to that emergency. So it's a really significant improvement to services for our community. And we also, we take a lot of pride in continuing to move the agency forward and keep us at the forefront of all of our operations, our equipment, and in order to serve our community the best that we can. And that's in both the fire and EMS realms. Last of note is this last year we started participation in the USAR program, the Urban Search and Rescue. So we are actually a part of the Oakland USAR 4 team. We have 12 members of our department that are trained and able to respond with that USAR. They did respond, if you'll remember, back just before the first of the year. In December, the widespread flooding that was happening in the state of Washington, USAR Task Force 4 was deployed and included members of our department to go and help out other communities that are in the face of disaster. What that does, in addition to just paying things forward, because as we saw in 2017, we're very active in statewide mutual aid, and in 2017 we had to be on the receiving end of that. Thankfully our partner agencies responded. So the same is true with the USAR, but it also allows us to get additional specialized technical rescue training, and especially where this is especially meaningful for us is in the event of an earthquake. There's a lot of specialized training for collapse rescue and victim search and rescue, all of that goes in, and those 12 members come back and they impart their training on the rest of the department. So it really is a significant benefit. Let's see. Next, prevention and community resilience. So we adopted the fire code in collaboration with Jennifer and the city team, the building team. We continue to emphasize regional vegetation management coordination. We've got a number of projects. Last year we did the Montini burn in collaboration with the city and a number of other partner agencies. We're continuing to do that good work and in the efforts of making our community more wildfire resilient. Another significant thing, and this kind of ties into the ISO Class 1 rating, is that we're doing everything that we can to help make sure that all of our residents within the district and certainly within the city as well are able to maintain fire insurance. I know it's a hot topic, and especially with the fire hazard severity zones. So ISO Class 1 is a very meaningful part of that. The other thing that we have earned for at least the second year, if not longer, we are a community risk reduction community. And what that is there's only about 50 within the entire state. And that means that we have met standards in terms of our public education, outreach, our response, our prevention efforts, to reach a very specialized list that also is beneficial for homeowners when they're looking for either renewals or new insurance. Okay, path to 2026. We have a balanced budget. Our priorities for 2026 is we're developing plans for some capital improvements, both our El Verano station and Kenwood station. Our El Verano station is the second, is the station that comes into the city most frequently when the city engine is busy. And we're going to continue working on veg management and our recruitment and retention. And we've got a number of grant applications that are being submitted right now through FEMA, through the Department of Homeland Security. So with that ends my synopsis of the annual report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Mine's semi-related. The sculpture will be completed when?
That's in my next slide deck.
Then I'll.
But good.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
Sorry. This is kind of just out of curiosity mostly, do you collaborate then with Civil Air Patrol that does search and rescue? It seems like it would make sense for there to be a relationship between those organizations, especially in the aspect of like their expertise in planning for emergencies and also using drones as well as aircraft.
Yes, so we have actually 2 drone programs just within the fire district. We've had a drone program for probably 5 years now, and then through the County Chiefs Association and Measure H funding, we just initiated a drone program that's throughout the county. And so there's 6 different drones in different strategically located places within the county, and we happen to be one of those as well. I know we are connected with Civil Air, but that usually goes through the Department of Emergency Management, so we don't have a lot of direct interaction with them. But certainly when there's a search and rescue mission, both the Sheriff's Office, search and rescue team, Civil Air, we bring in every resource that we possibly can.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
I want to say thank you for something not indicated in this book from your presentation. Thank you for your great contribution for our city Carniv, and you send over an ambulance over there. That right now it is running across the Ukraine. Yeah, 2 years ago, I was honored representing then the Mayor John Gurney attend resilience and the ceremony in San Francisco. You and I and our in the city group people. That is tremendous. And that day, I still remember you just like a celebrity. Everybody wants to take a photo with you. And that is amazing, Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. That's something that our department takes a lot of pride in, and in the collaboration with the city to be able to donate the 2 ambulances to Ukraine, our sister cities country, and in their deepest and most neediest time. So it felt really good for us as well. We're happy to do it. Okay, next, a 2026 fire season update. So you get a 2-for-1 tonight. First of all, it's an early start to the fire season, as we've probably seen. We've already responded out of our county down to Ventura County, the Thousand Oaks area for the Sandy fire last month. We are in full swing and have completed our annual wildland training requirements. We continue to assist with local mutual aid, and I'm not going to go through all of it. Sorry, I need to catch up. Our prevention efforts, some of which I highlighted, our chipper program, some of our prescribed burns, and lots of collaboration, especially with Fire Safe Sonoma and the Sonoma Ecology Center. We've also just put in for a number of grants with those, in collaboration with those agencies, to continue the fuels reduction work. We did start 2 new Firewise communities in Diamond A and London Ranch Road, and we're working on 4 others, including one within the city limits, above kind of the Norbaum Road area. Next, sorry, that was a sudden transition. The weather. We've already seen, we've had, as the city manager mentioned, we've already had our first red flag warning this year. County chiefs, through our Measure H funding, upstaffed additional resources for that event, including one here in the Valley. Our outlook is for above normal temperatures and unusually fast drying of fuels, which is problematic for us. And our El Nino, we expect it to be a significant one this year, which will lead to stronger onshore winds. And of note, this red flag warning, we really lucked out last year. We did not have a single red flag warning throughout last year. Our last one before the one a week ago or so was in November of 24. So hopefully, knock on wood, we'll keep that going. In general, you can see the map and the outlook for significant fire potential. Lots of Sonoma County, especially in June, and then in July and August, certainly including the Sonoma Valley, is in the above normal. We continue to prepare in all aspects. We have 3 new district-funded engines that are on order that we anticipate to get within the next 6 months. And we continue to staff our REDCOM Fire and EMS Dispatch Center with fire season dispatchers as well as chief officers to help during times of fire incidents. I think we've gone over this before, but as a reminder, there's a significant portion of the city that is in the very high or moderate hazard severity zones as determined by the Board of Forestry. Related to that, and I touched on this a little bit, but this shows a little bit more detail about all the different ways that through the California Fire Chiefs Association that I'll be that I'm actively involved in and will be leading next year. We are involved deeply in the insurance issue statewide, and it's not just the state, it's the it's a lot of western states that are facing the same insurance problems and difficulties. Okay, we talked about veg management, we talked about chipping, we talked about all of that stuff already, so we'll keep moving on. As a reminder to everyone, and especially with what we're looking at as a potentially more significant fire season, we want to make sure that all of our community is prepared and as prepared as best they can. So here are a few things. Prepare on a personal level, prepare if you're a business owner, have a kind of continuity of operations plan. So if you are evacuated, that you can continue to operate your business. Focus on defensible space and home hardening, and have a communications plan with people that are out of the area so you can maintain communications. We have a whole lot of resources on SonomaValleyFire.org. And there's also a whole lot of resources on SoCoEmergency.org, which is the county's Department of Emergency Management website. And with that, that ends my fire season update, and happy to answer any questions.
Please.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned earlier about new fire engines, and are these replacements or are these new additional vehicles?
They are replacements.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Now, is this the time I can ask about the sculpture?
Oh yeah, I didn't. I missed that. I apologize. So let's talk about that. We did the Firewise garden, which I know was not appreciated maybe at the start, but the plants are growing, and I think it's become a bit more appealing. And as a companion project to that, we undertook the first public art project under the city's new public art program policy, thanks to Sarah Tracy. And we just had it installed. It was finished being installed yesterday. Do you have pics or no? Yes, no?
We can wait.
So it rounds out our kind of garden area in the front, and we will be having a ceremony.
I was going to say, when's the ribbon cutting?
It will be on 9/11.
Okay.
So we felt it was appropriate, even though it's a couple of months away. We felt it was appropriate to wait for that, and obviously a very solemn day for everyone and day of remembrance, and we felt that was close enough that we would wait and do it then. So we will get out a program and invitations as we get closer to that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There it is. Oh, wow. There it goes. All right. Thank you very much. It doesn't say on the presentation there is an opportunity for public comment. But there is a public comment at the end that you can remember your thoughts and share. Very good. Okay, moving on to the yes?
Mr. Mayor, if you are so inclined, you may call for public comment.
Will we keep it short? Yes, you may come forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Tom Conlon here. I just had some questions on hearing the great presentation from Chief Akre. First of all, I was under the impression that CAL FIRE had stopped prescribed burning events, and I know that the city manager just announced that. I know that we are still expecting some in the area. I just was hoping that that discrepancy could be explained tonight for the public. And then secondarily, in the budget, I saw that the total budget, 22.6 million, 6.5 the city's portion, which I calculate to be 29% of the operating budget, and 42% from an earlier slide are calls for service in the city limits. So just wondering if how that allocation is being reviewed, if the city is getting a good deal as participating in the region-wide fire district. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. The fire chief would like to just comment on the prescribed burn. That'd be great. Then we can bring closure on that.
Yes, I don't have specific dates for prescribed burns coming up. It is always something that is weather dependent. We will not put good fire on the ground, as we call it, if the conditions are not right. We work in close partnership with agencies like Fire Forward and Sonoma Ecology Center and CAL FIRE to do that. Tom, I think what you may have seen, and I know that there's a lot of information out there, but CAL FIRE stopped the agricultural burns. So there are no more burn permits being issued by CAL FIRE, but we will still do some of the planned, prescribed, and training burns if and when the weather is favorable for us to do those, and that we're safe on that. But good question.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, with that, now we're moving right on to the consent calendar portion. These items are considered to be routine and are acted upon by a single motion. And I'm asking both staff and council if there's anyone that wishes to pull an item.
I move the consent calendar.
Second.
I do have a comment on item 7.6 that can simply be a comment or a question that need not break into a full discussion. And I'll leave that up to our attorney to decide when we cross that line. Thank you. So with that, we have a motion and a second.
Well, were you going to ask for public comment, or were you going to make a comment on 7.6?
That's where I was headed.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I'm soliciting any public comment. And because we solicited motions too early, we'll go back and just acknowledge the motion as expressed. So with that, do I ask the question now, or is it? Okay, the question I have is on 7.6, and it's directed to Public Works, and that is, I would love to find out when in the PCI or when the calendar is that we can address the rather embarrassing condition of First Street West that takes people up to many venues, events, and it is something that I would almost argue that I can't think of another short section of city road that's in worse condition. So that's just something I'd like to request. It can come back at another time. It's just that's what I would like. Now, having spoken my piece, we've had a motion. May I have a roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Ging,
Aye.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Mayor Wellander.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Very good, thank you. And we do have a public hearing item, 8.1. And at this point in time, we are going to have the updated urban water management plan and water shortage contingency plan, and I would welcome Ashley forward.
Mayor Wellander, if I can, just before Ashley begins, go ahead. I just wanted to note something what seems a little bit odd, or may seem odd to you, the fact that we have this item agendized twice, once as a public hearing and then once for approval. Normally what we would do when we had a public hearing in order to approve a plan is we would put it as one item under the public hearing. The Department of Water Resources has interpreted the state law in a way that they indicate that they prefer to see it agendized separately, acknowledging that technically the council has authority to make changes to the plan based on the public hearing, based on resident input, based on the discussion. And so they believe that the proper way to do this particular approval of the plans is to agendize them separately. The items are otherwise substantively the same. The action will be requested in the second item, and so the first item is really to receive the report and then to receive the public comment during the public hearing.
Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. The public hearing portion will be presented by our consultants, EKI. The city authorized a contract in July of last year, I believe, or 2025, to do the urban water management plan. And so they are going to be presenting their findings, essentially the draft of the urban water management plan, which has also been attached to your council meeting packet. Public comments resulting from the public hearing may be incorporated into the final draft. And again, as Mr. Ruderman has explained, this is going to come up again as part of our regular council item as an adoption. The public comment period has been open for the last couple of weeks. It's been noticed in the Index Tribune twice. We have received a few comments, mostly aligning the urban water management plan with our city sustainability goals and some small clarifying edits to improve consistency and avoid confusion. So we will be incorporating those into the final urban water management plan to be submitted to the Department of Water Resources. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn with EKI, who will be presenting via Zoom.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Right. Okay, share. There we go. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So thank you. I will be presenting the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and the 2025 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And so first, the Urban Water Management Plan, UWMP for short. This plan is required to be updated every 5 years and submitted to the California Department of Water Resources. This plan is a prerequisite to receive state loans and grants. So typically you will do this, the city has been doing this every 5 years. And so this plan is due to DWR this year by July 1st, 2026. Included in this plan is a service area description, historical supply and demands used by your water system, projections of supply and demands through 2050 in various hydrologic year types, including normal years, single dry years, and multiple dry years. It also includes a summary of your water conservation programming and your drought plan. And so, kind of looking back at your past demands, over the last 15 years, your water demands have fluctuated quite a bit. In this chart, you can see demands from 2010 to 2025 broken up by demand sector. And by demand sector, we mean really customer type. That could be a single family or multifamily home, commercial uses, irrigation use, other uses such as firefighting or line flushing. We also have recycled water use and non-revenue water. So you can see there's some patterns in here. For example, water demands you tend to decrease during droughts. For example, you can see from 2021 to 2023, demand drops and then starts increasing again. Another pattern you can see here is that single family water use makes up a good portion of your water demand, about half of it. And so moving forward, as demand is projected, one of the biggest drivers is typically population. And so one of the things we looked at as part of this plan is population forecasting. In general, population isn't forecasted to increase very much within the city over the next 25 years. We have a projection that the population will increase just slightly over the next 5 years. Generally, that has to do with the construction of RHNA housing, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment requirements. And then, it also aligns with your general plan that looks at, basically says that population levels are relatively stable through 2050. And so coming from that, we can see your actual and projected demands in this chart. Demand projections generally account for future population growth, some climate variability, and also includes your passive conservation savings. Currently, your demand is about 2,000 acre feet as of 2025, and it's projected to increase just slightly up to about 2,160 acre feet by 2050. And so moving to the supply side, you can see over the last 5 years, primarily your water supply has come from Sonoma County Water Agency, or Sonoma Water for short. Purchased water from Sonoma Water makes up about 90% of your supply. The remainder of the supply comes from your underlying groundwater basin. And also there is a small amount of recycled water that is used for landscape irrigation within the city. And so looking out into the future, you can see on this chart here, we're showing the black line is your projected demand from 2030 to 2050, and that was overlaid with your projected supplies. And this is a normal year supply. So if you think about just kind of your average precipitation year, this is what's reflected here. Sonoma Water assumes the 3,000 acre feet per year entitlement that the city gets through the contract. And so that's reflected here. It also reflects your city's projected pumping through 2050. And so essentially what we're showing here is that there's projected to be sufficient supply in a normal year. During dry years, the forecasting also shows that there would be sufficient supply to meet demands in either a single dry year or a multiple dry year, where you might see, say, 5 years of drought in a row. This analysis primarily relies on modeling that was completed by Sonoma Water as part of its own urban water management plan. And you can see here a little bit different in this chart is that instead of the previous chart that showed potential, all of your potential entitlements that are available, this reflects only how much demand you would have on Sonoma Water. So it's it's possible that there could be more supply available to the city from Sonoma Water in a dry year, but the modeling Sonoma Water completed, they didn't provide those results. So we're only able to show up to the amount of purchased water that could potentially be needed in a dry year. And so in addition to projecting supply and demand, the plan includes a summary of your water conservation programming that has been completed over the last 5 years. It also includes a description of the actions that are described in the water shortage contingency plan that the city could take should the city be faced with a drought. Okay, so that is the urban water management plan. Attached as an appendix, but also prepared alongside the urban water management plan is the water shortage contingency plan. Within this plan, it includes a framework of the planned responses and measures that the city could take to mitigate future water supply shortages. As I mentioned just a moment ago, it's prepared alongside the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and is intended to be a standalone plan that can be updated independently of the Urban Water Management Plan, which is why it's listed on its own as part of this public hearing and as part of the adoption portion of the agenda. And so the water shortage contingency plan includes 10 elements that are required by the water code. These include a water supply reliability analysis, the annual assessment procedures that the city takes to determine whether there is sufficient supply for the city to meet demands over the next year. It lists the 6 standard shortage stages that the city may take should you face a water supply shortage. The shortage response actions to take at each of those stages. Communication protocols, compliance and enforcement for not meeting those response actions, the city's legal authorities for implementing those shortage response actions, financial consequences to having to implement the water shortage contingency plan, monitoring and reporting procedures, and then any additional water shortage contingency plan refinement procedures. So I'm just going to kind of show you a couple highlights here from the plan. I won't go through each section, but basically when I say the 6 standard stages, these are mandated as part of the California Water Code. And so this is really in alignment with that. And so each shortage stage, essentially it's up to a 10% shortage range of supply. So it's shortage level 1, you could have a 10% shortage level 2, up to 20% supply shortage, and so on and so forth. And then in the description column here, you can see under shortage level 1, the management measures are voluntary. And then once you start getting into shortage level 2, the measures become mandatory. And so these, they're within the plan itself. If you want to look, there are several tables, there's several pages of drought response actions under each shortage level. Essentially, these are very similar to those included 5 years ago in the 2020 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. Generally, these focus on outdoor water use. That's kind of the big area where you have potential for saving water during a drought period. They take an effort to focus on a few simple actions to make your messaging, enforcement, and compliance easier. Once you get up into high, at the lower stages, it's kind of smaller measures like reducing watering or that sort of thing. It doesn't start really prohibiting things like outdoor water use or preventing new constructions up until those very high stages, up at stage 5. And these were these stages and measures were looked at using a quantification tool that helped us to determine which measures would get you to the right stage. Okay, so that is the summary of the Urban Water Management Plan and the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dawn. And now I'm going to turn to the dais. And do we have any questions for the council?
Yeah, so I was curious on section 6, 6.4 and 6.5, and also looking at 6.1, and also reflecting on the graph that you showed when you showed supply that was just from Sonoma Water. We're really meeting demand and not above demand. And so wondering why you are not looking at adding any options to increase stormwater capture or expanding the, usage for recycled water, especially looking at some of the conditions that, many of those conditions are not conditions that have occurred here yet, so could require increased water demand.
Yes, and that's a very good question. Those are definitely potential areas for increased water supply use. When we prepared the plan, we didn't have quantifications for those. With recycled water, our understanding was when that recycled water pipeline was put in, there was one or two potential uses along it, but at this time, there aren't any additional planned conversions for existing uses. And so that's why recycled water within the plan itself is pretty steady into the future. As far as stormwater goes, we don't have information on potential quantification for stormwater capture. That being said, the plan does get updated every 5 years, so it's possible we could include that as a stormwater as a concept within the plan itself. We don't have the numbers for that at this time.
I looked at the Orange County plan where they have like 42% of their water coming from stormwater capture. And the reason, and that came about due to looking at the risk assessment and being really focused on long-term planning, and how do we address that now before we're in the middle of the crisis. So even though we could change it. So that's just my question is, so then it's kind of like, what is the methodology that we're looking at in regards to risk forecasting and taking a risk-adverse approach, or a more risk-adverse approach, versus the approach, to me, that seems to be taken that kind of seems like we're going to be fine until 2050, which we very well will be, but it seems like many of the special conditions are conditions that could happen but have not yet happened. So I'm just curious about that methodology and why we're not looking at more other options for increasing water capture.
Yeah, just with the urban water management plans, the guidelines for that are very prescribed. And it's kind of takes more, I'll say it takes a more conservative approach. There's, the plan itself doesn't have a lot of areas for, and just preparation of it doesn't really include a lot of opportunity for looking at additional feasible projects. That it's not really a feasibility study, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it could be that's an opportunity for additional study.
And I can take that into the next
I
section.
think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please.
Also, I have similar questions. 90% relies on container water, and how we can diversify, in case that is something that happened, polluted or whatever. Do you think we can develop the more groundwater within the city limit? Because right now, just only have the 10%. So if any suggestions according to your experience, because overall in our Sonoma Valley, and groundwater and aquifer, deep aquifer, also is it's kind of healthy, but it still isn't shrinking. We concern how we can balance, the water we are using right now and what is our future water. Yeah. I want to listen your comments. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Well, the groundwater itself, I don't know how much you know about it, but the groundwater basin is now part of a groundwater sustainability planning effort that was put into place a couple years ago. There's a groundwater sustainability agency that I believe the city is involved with. So as part of that effort, essentially, they took a long-term look at groundwater that could be sustainably pumped by the various pumpers in the basin. So I know in the past, the city has pumped, as within so in 2025, for example, the city pumped 100 acre feet. In 2021, 315 acre feet were pumped. And so I'm kind of looking at numbers. I believe the sustainability plan incorporated the city's historic pumping. So as of now, the plan will have assumed, the groundwater sustainability plan will have modeled and determined the whether the basin can be sustainably pumped based on the city's historic pumping. So to kind of further explore development of the groundwater basin, the city would need to work with the groundwater sustainability agencies to kind of work with them and determine how much more you might want to pump and have that modeled.
Thank you. Regarding surface water, do you have any suggestions, if any, the second water resource around the vicinity area? Something like the Jack London Park, we have the little lake. That water could be used for civic use or totally, and it's not unworkable. I want to listen to any comments from you.
Sorry, I don't know much about that particular water source. Generally with local surface waters, you would need to have permit potentially to be able to divert water from surface waters like creeks and lakes. So that would be something that might need to, the potential for water rights diversions might need to be explored to be able to access additional surface water supplies.
Thank you.
Quick question. Thank you for the rather voluminous, that's not the right word, the 300-page report. It seems to be extremely complete. I'm curious because we are basically a pass-through. We get 90% of our water from Sonoma Water. Of the report, I'm trusting that a lot of that has been based upon the information that Sonoma Water has provided, EKI. And,
that's correct.
And where our contribution is once we get the water, how we're managing it and distributing it and what efforts we're going to be taking to be good stewards. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. I guess that wasn't a question, Si.
That was a question.
You have it right.
It was a question. It was a good question.
So, thank you for your answer. And at this point, if we don't have any more up here and staff has no more questions there, I'm going to open up the public hearing and welcome anybody to come to the podium and comment.
Hi, thanks again. Tom Conlon here. I submitted some written comments just before the 5 o'clock deadline, so I'm not sure anyone has had a chance to look at those yet. But I'll briefly, I will not be able to summarize 2.5 pages of comments in 3 minutes, but I appreciate all the effort to date that's gone into this plan, in particular the enhancements over the 2021 Urban Water Management Plan that have been put in place to comply with state law. the Making Water Conservation California Way of Life, what an acronym that is in the report. Especially the additional detail that's in the contingency plan steps. That is very new, and it is much more robust than it has been in previous cycles. And in fact, we need contingency plans, more of them in climate action, frankly. And what are we going to do if Gen Z decides we're too old and bougie and they don't want to visit us anymore? We need contingency plans. I have concerns about tonight, the way that this public hearing is structured. There have been substantive comments, I believe, made, both by yourselves tonight, as well as the ones I put together, as well as some that have come in writing as well. I think there's an error in the report because it cites a June 3 public hearing, which I was here June 3rd. We didn't talk about this at all. So I'd like to see that correction made. There's no reference to the climate action strategies, which was pointed out by our sustainability coordinator. The big picture is that we are, of the Saving Water Partnership in our region, we are probably the biggest per capita consumer of water, and we have not been going down. So, and that we detail that in our climate ad hoc, our water turf ad hoc. The other report had lots of detail about specific conservation measures. I don't see that in the appendices that have been made available to date. And so I have those questions as how can we make a good report if we haven't actually been able to review the appendices? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And just for our own edification up here at the dais, would anybody care to wish about the comment about what apparently might be missing from this in terms of a complete report? And this would go back to possibly our consultant.
Certainly, yes. So within, I believe the gentleman was talking about demand management measures. And for those, we essentially kept them at the same level of detail. Yeah, we essentially have a summary table of implementation over the past 5 years. There's also a little bit additional information within an appendix. I believe it's Appendix B with the demand forecasting study that was completed as part of the plan. So it's possible it's within there. I haven't seen the detailed comments that he mentioned. So it is hard to say. I know it's
No problem.
it does meet the guidelines.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
yes,
just
please.
in reference to the June 3rd, the draft consultant report referenced that because that was the original public hearing date that we were going to come to the council, and subsequently it was pushed to this meeting date.
Okay, thank you. Can I just get clarity as far as the process now? So we've heard some public comments have been written in, and these will be passed on to the consultant, and who's the determining individual that says, yes, this is something we need to fold in or not?
That's going to be a function of the council's direction. Normally, that's something that's delegated to the city manager.
Okay, so in other words, we have not, shouldn't be so presumptuous.
My understanding is that the comments are going to be included in the report. If that's incorrect, then the consultant can correct it.
Okay, so those comments will, and then the full report comes back to us for final sign-off?
No, this is going to be the final sign-off.
That's
To
what
the
I
extent
thought. So
there's changes, you would request that those be incorporated because there is a July 1 deadline, I understand. as well,
Correct,
to Department of
correct.
Water Resources. So I would defer to in terms of with the consultant in terms of how they manage the comments that come in at the hearing.
Okay.
You might want to ask the consultant.
I would love to ask the consultant.
Certainly. Yes, as far as I can tell, the comments won't affect the underlying analysis. They would really serve to, I think, enhance the plan itself. So we would be comfortable with saying that they aren't major changes. They just serve to provide additional detail So we could include them and not affect the overall outcome of the plan, should you approve it this evening.
Okay.
So in,
So we
so
would
in the
we
motion,
incorporate.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so we could say that the comments that were received will be incorporated into the final plan.
So with the council's motion, one option would be to, in the motion approving the resolution, you would also direct the city manager to ensure that the comments received by the close of the public hearing were incorporated into the plan itself.
And that will be discussed and action taken on the 9.1. Correct. Okay. Very good. So I believe if I haven't, I'm closing the public hearing portion of it, bringing back to the council for any additional comments. So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed into the regular calendar, of which we will be picking up and continuing on the topic of water management at 9.1. And this is a resolution adopting the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And I believe is there any other comments coming forth?
Sorry, this is the adoption portion, right?
Correct.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to clarify.
We're all a little confused.
No problem.
Apologies about that. Yeah. And again, thank you, Mr. Ritterman, for your overall explanation of why the process is different from 2021. 2021, it was all done at the same time, and so there was a little confusion because we're bringing it as separate items. But essentially, now that we've had the public hearing, you will, vote on the adoption for the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and provide direction to staff to include the comments completed.
Okay, very good. So I see a light on. I see
Yes,
a light
well,
off.
And also, I mean, it's interesting how this process is happening, because I wonder if this current process, and I realize we have a deadline of July 1st, but the current process doesn't really allow for changes to the plan and then things coming back.
Well,
Or we have to do that right now.
Unfortunately, we do have to do that right now. Originally, the game plan was to bring this as a public hearing on June 3rd and then come back on the 17th for adoption. However, we do have, this requires 2 weeks of public noticing, and unfortunately, the Sonoma Index Tribune changed their timeline to get it into the paper, so we weren't able to do that. And so, unfortunately, we do have to do it in one. But I will say about the comments is that they are reviewed, they are sent to the consultant, because we've, Mr. Conlon submitted his comments, and we have had comments received prior to that, and so the process has been to submit to the consultant and essentially ask them if it adds to the report, in that it improves it, or if are we going to be in any are we going to have any issues with DWR by having these comments in there, and then they will evaluate and say yes, it would make sense. As a generally speaking, DWR has regulations about what needs to be in the urban water management plan, and we can add to it as part of the process of the public comment. So I can say moving forward, that would be the process. You guys wanted to move forward with the comments that have been provided as part of the public comment period, is we would evaluate the comments that have been received. The other comments that have been received up until today have been reviewed by EKI and, have been vetted, and that's what I mentioned at the beginning with the public hearing, that those will be adopted. The newer comments that have just been received will be reviewed by the consultant and will be added in if there's no issue that the consultant sees with adding them.
So out of curiosity's sake, we're submitting this July 1st to DWR, and is this a case where if they don't like the information, they're going to kick it back if it hasn't met the criteria, or is it just this is an automatic punt to Sacramento?
This is usually a regulatory checkbox for the state. From a water planning perspective, it's really important to have these reports and know where we're at. And for us as well, and Sonoma Water especially, given the fact that we, buy 90% of our water from them. The report has been written in the guidelines of DWR. They submit a guidebook that is put together by staff before every reporting cycle. EKI has that. At this point, the comments would be evaluated to make sure that they're not, that there's nothing that would put us in, there's nothing that DWR would kick back, essentially, is what they would be looking for. So the comments are really more for substantive edits to kind of bulk up the report, and, you know, assuming that there's no issue with them, they will be incorporated.
Very good, very good. Thank you.
So I'm going to take a stab at this then.
Well, we need public comment one more
Okay.
time, so let me
Do we?
thank you that according to
public
this.
comment, then we can comment, yeah.
Is there any individuals that would like to come forward and speak at this point in time?
I'm sorry, it's Tom Conley again. As you can see, the state's purpose in breaking this into two is to give us all an opportunity to have a conversation. Obviously, staff wanted to do that. They scheduled it for June 3rd. That failed to happen. We have a July 1 deadline with DWR. I understand the pressure staff is under to try and get this done, and now that pressure is transferred to you tonight. And it was to me when I realized, oh my God, we've been wanting to weigh in on the urban water management plan since it was begun drafting. We've met with staff multiple times before we had anything to review. And here I am tonight trying to compress my comments into 3 minutes and a couple of pages. So partly it's a process concern. I would like to see us try to respect such substantive reports, give them the due diligence that they deserve. I do believe, as I said earlier, there are going to be some things in these written comments that may or may not be material to the plan, and what you're effectively doing if you approve it tonight is you're delegating that discretion to the consultant and maybe to staff. It won't come back before you if you make that decision tonight. So the alternative would be a special meeting or to miss the deadline. But I'm not willing to probably tell DWR about this. But that's the position you could find yourselves in if you make a decision tonight that is problematic. So I'm not sure how else to characterize it. We should do better when we have these reports, and I'm not blaming staff for the delay, but I certainly wanted to have more of an opportunity to weigh in on it than I've had tonight. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay, very good. Anyone else from the public would like to come forward? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and bring it back to the dais for discussion and possible motion.
So I would like to have us wrap in the comments from our Climate Action Commission strategy, which has been approved by the council, that the comments in that pertain to the water management plan and plans relative to this to be put into this plan report. And so I'm assuming, and I'm not positive because I didn't check all of this against that, because there's 300 and then there's another, I don't know how many pages, but, which I should have done. But then just, to add in that, looking at, what can be done around stormwater capture and what can be done around expanding use of recycled water. I think that is already in the plan for the Climate Action Commission. We also have a cash for turf plan that's part of the Climate Action Commission, where we pay people to take their grass out, and that should be in the plan and was not in this. And then the only other thing that I think we want to think about, and I know we can revisit this plan, so that may be another option, is let's set up a time when we can, revisit it could be revisited annually. I see Jennifer, I'm not really good at lip reading. Annually, is that correct?
It's redone every 5 years. So every 5 years there's a reporting cycle. We take in data. So the next one will be from 2026 to 2031.
But we could revisit the plan at any time.
You can
Correct.
revisit the plan, look at it at any point. You just can't recertify it with DWR at any time.
Yeah, but, right, and the main thing, DWR, they're great, but what we're concerned about is what we are doing here, right? So how the plan relates to what we're trying to have happen here.
So, Councilmember, the other suggestion I would have is if the council is interested in having staff look at these other alternatives, groundwater, et cetera, you could, in your annual goal setting and priorities, direct staff to do further research on those and bring them back to the council for policy consideration. Then maybe there's an amendment to the report, but it doesn't necessarily have to revamp the entire report.
Right. Yeah, so I think that that's a workaround that we could probably live with. I think that that would be good. And overall, just in regards, and I love all this work, I love all this data, right? I really do nerd out on it. But one of the things I would say overall, I tend to take a much more risk adverse strategy or forecasting approach to be able to look at not what, I think we're all in this situation right now with the changing weather that is happening, and we all know the weather is changing. No matter what we want to call it, we know the weather is changing and affecting us and affecting the services we provide and affecting safety for our constituents. Is kind of looking at the forecasting on a kind of what is the most normal or moderate forecast projection, and what are the potentially worse forecast projections, and try and be planning as much as you can early on for things that we can already see are happening in regards to the amount of rain we get at one time in one day or 1 hour, and what that does. And if we have an extreme event, what are the things that we should be doing now to plan around water? Because everybody talks about heat all the time and what the effects are. That there's less discussion around water, and water is probably in regards to issues around what we're seeing in weather change, whatever we want to call it, climate change or whatever. Water is one of the most significantly affected. And what are the things we can do in regards to if there's an earthquake? Where is our water coming from, and what's happening with Potter Valley, which we still don't know what's going to happen with Potter Valley and how that's going to. So just kind of an overall approach. I think I tend to take more of a risk management approach. But great work, even though I would like to see it go a little farther.
Very good.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you, Patricia. And that is the major concern. She already mentioned. And also, I'm concerned about our county agencies' allocation constrained. A lot of uncertainty. Part of Valley's issue. We don't know how much water we can receive. And right now, it seems like any problem. But what our city government, we need to look ahead. Not only in 5 years, 10 years. Yeah. So that is number one. Number two, in the future, this kind of a plan, I think we should add something, the implementation, not just only in the presenting data or something like that. For example, any additional conservation program target towards high value users, and every year, if we mentioned and give the residents some idea how important to save the water, and also in the long term, also we can, thinking if we have enough money on thinking infrastructure, and also it's important and try to identify any other resource. This is a long term, and also. Local here, we have the similar situation like the Moon Valley Water District. How we can work together, cooperate with each other, and right now, and the people interested in, a merge or acquisition or whatever. We don't want to use this kind of bigger words, and see water district, between the district, water district, how much we can cooperate, work together, save the energy safety and the resource and providing more good products to our local people. That is my comments. Thank you.
And to my right, any comments? I just need some clarity, and I'm not sure if it's our interim city manager that will provide it, our attorney, our planning director, our community development director, but it's my understanding that this report primarily is checking a bureaucratic box that we're required by law to produce every 5 years. Does that tie our hands as a small city of the users of water to further establish requirements, goals, expectations, whatever, when it comes to water? So if we want to go ahead and be more proactive, and we've structured a climate action commission, and they've come forth with some recommendations, we, the council, have the liberty that we can consider it and make that a, I don't know if the word is supplement, but just because this report doesn't include rainwater capture or doesn't include recycled expansion, these are topics that we can actually bring forth and have a discussion, and we're not tied to the fact that we can't do better, because the bottom line is I think we're all wanting to be good stewards. So I just need to get that clarity.
Yeah, you can always do more, and this adoption of this report does not preclude that direction to staff.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, and the discussion we've had, might there be a motion that can be made or offered?
And yeah, just to reiterate, so I guess there's 3 options before the council. There's adopt the plan as is. There's adopt the plan or plans, and authorize the city manager to include any additional comments that were received by the end of the public hearing that enhance and that do not conflict with the data. And then the third option would be if there were some substantive changes that the consultant believes would be necessary based on the latest comments received, the council could direct that there be an additional special meeting, that we continue this public hearing, or actually it wouldn't be the public hearing, that's closed, but we would continue the adoption until the next special meeting before July 1st.
Okay, very good. So those are the 3 choices. I did
I
hear
have
a
a slight
preference.
amendment to that first one. A slight amendment. So I think the key part of the public comment is including in that the actions that the Climate Action Commission that have already been approved by City Council to be included in this report. And even though I agree with you, it is a report and we can always do more. But reports like this, people always go back to say, this is our guideline, right? So that's why you push to have them to be as full and, and responsible as possible.
Yeah, and I apologize if I misunderstood the comments. I believe I understood that to be included as part of the comments regarding the Climate Action Commission's recommendations.
So I have heard the slight amendment, so I'd like to go back and say, are you willing then to put forth the motion?
I move to adopt the water management plan with the direction that the language from the comments that includes actions that have already been approved by council of our Climate Action Commission be added to the plan.
Is there a second?
I second.
Further discussion?
And just for clarification, that includes the water shortage contingency plan approval as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, water.
Yes.
Okay, believe so. Now ask again. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Mayor Wellander.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
So I'm going to exercise the power of a mayor. We're taking a break until 8 o'clock.
we've got to correct it. Yeah.
I'd like to call order back to this meeting, please. Thank you very much for your patience and break. So with that, we're moving on to our regular calendar 9.2. This is a review, discussion, and potential approval of a public art donation and installation submitted by Peter Hansen, and we do have our Parks and Rec Director to present, so welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. As you mentioned, we're here to review, discuss, and potentially accept an artistic donation from local artist Peter Hassan. So what I will do is quickly walk you through kind of the roles of the public art policy. We'll talk in detail about the piece, and then talk about potential next steps. Of course, open up for any questions you may have. So a little bit of background information, as was brought up earlier in the meeting this evening. The City Council adopted Sonoma's public art policy in December of '24. The intent of this policy is to provide a framework to review and potentially accept, approve, or deny public art installations. It's an opportunity to promote public art and to engage the community in the process, to foster the creative and artistic individuals within our community and also those outside the community that are visiting. And also to create a streamlined process, so those that are interested in proposing artistic donations or installations gives them a streamlined process of how that potentially can be reviewed and approved. And in fall of this year, staff received the first public portion of the public art process that moved through this and met with our Cultural and Fine Arts Commission and ultimately on to City Council. Take a look at the different roles in this process, so you've all had an opportunity to look at the policy in detail, but to give a high-level overview of the different roles between the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission and the City Council. So the commission's role is to review and provide recommendations on potential acceptance of gifts and loans, installation of artwork, both temporary and public in nature, and to collaborate with staff on the long-term vision for public art in Sonoma. The council's role is to ultimately make the final determination on accepting gifts, authorize the use of the public art funds, and ultimate approval of temporary and permanent public art installations. So before I jump into the proposal details, I just want to take a moment to thank the artist, Mr. Hassan, for even considering a piece of his personal collection to be making that available to the community as part of our community collection. So taking a look specifically at Cycles 3, that's the artwork that's being proposed for us this evening. So in May of this year, staff received a donation by way of the public art policy donation process that was submitted by Peter Hassan. This piece you all are most likely familiar with. We'll have some images for you to take a look at in a moment, but this was displayed as a temporary installation for approximately 6 months in the plaza in 2022. So an overview of the piece itself, it's a court and steel sculpture. It's 96 inches in the round, so it is 3 different discs, symmetrical in size. They're all nature-based discs, so they are water jet cut, and they're discs that highlight bees, birds, and frogs. It's approximately 1,600 pounds in weight, and once it's in place, it's anchored and welded to either a base plate, concrete pad, or directly to the ground itself. The piece is intended to be low maintenance, according to the artist. It can be cleaned simply. It's fairly resilient. Part of consideration of this piece is knowing that it's being proposed in a public space, a public park area, and so how it would withstand. We know we certainly don't promote people climbing, touching, and using art as a playground. But we know without fail in a public space, this piece will be interacted with by the public. So according to the artist, it is very sturdy. Actually saw a demonstration of someone climbing on it, that it can withstand an individual climbing on it, and it doesn't create an overarching hazard. It doesn't have sharp and jagged edges, and has the ability to be cleaned if it were to be receive just kind of natural deterioration, as well as if it were to receive graffiti. There are fairly simple methods to clean that up. And the artist has made themselves available to help with the placement as well as long-term maintenance over the course of the installation if the staff needs assistance. So taking a look at some of the imagery, this is the picture of Cycles 3. On the right-hand side of the screen is when it was placed in 2022 in Plaza Park. Initially, it was in the southwest quadrant, close to the duck pond area. A few more images of the piece in different location, different times of days, different years. So you can see how the piece has weathered and taken on a lovely patina sheen to it. So looking at the installation, I'll put up some images here in a moment, but looking at the proposed location installation. So initially in the proposal, you may see it's been proposed to be in the southeast quadrant of Plaza Park. In the artist's initial proposal, place this on the most southeast corner of the park, really at the intersections of East Napa and First Street East. Initially on the southern portion of that main walkway, after consulting with the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission as well as the artist, the proposal that we're bringing forward to you this evening is to place it just on the other side of that walkway, so a little more north, but still in that southeast quadrant. I'll put up an image in a moment that hopefully depicts that a little bit better. The reason that location was selected, it's a high visibility location, but fairly low impact to park usage as far as events goes, normal gathering areas. Staff and commissioners spent time looking at how that space is used, say for a Tuesday market or for events or natural use. It's a fairly open space, but fairly low impact as far as taking any of the park usage out of commission for a casual or an event user. Also, the lighting in that area, lighting and shadow elements are a key component of this piece, how the shadow is displayed onto the area, so this area lends itself nicely to that imagery. Knowing that we have some anticipated long-range planning in front of us as we look at how the park is utilized, our entire park system, as well as the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission being in the process of evaluating public art community-wide, and also an opportunity for the community to give response and feedback, knowing this will be one of our first permanent installations, permanent donations to the city. Staff and the Cultural Fine Arts Commission are recommending an initial pilot period of placement in this location. We are looking for the council to potentially consider permanent adoption of the piece, but as far as the location goes, we're recommending piloting a period in this location so we can get an understanding of how that piece fits into Plaza Park and whether that is the best place for long-term installation. Throughout this process, some alternative locations that staff considered, as well as the commission, was looking at Depot Park along the bike and pedestrian pathway and other city park spaces. Ultimately, it was determined that this space seemed to lend itself as the best location for this piece as part of that pilot period. So here's a closer look at the location. Try to give you 3 different images to look at. Left-hand side, it's kind of small there in the corner, but you see the 2 red arrows pointing to the location. On the right-hand side, these are images as you're looking at the intersection of East Napa and First Street East, looking inwards to the park. So again, just on the north side of that walkway in that open grassy space. Looking at some details of the proposal of transportation and getting it installed. So the artist has offered to help load this piece from their personal property onto a flatbed to be transported to the park. The city would ultimately be responsible for the transport and installation of the sculpture. If we were to relocate it to a different location, as well as long-term maintenance would also be the responsibility of the city once we take ownership of the piece. And again, the artist provided technical installation details as part of their proposal and is also offered to be available should the city have questions on installation. As part of the process, the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission reviewed this piece at their June 9th meeting. They recommended moving forward with acceptance of this piece with a few considerations for staff and the council to take a look at. They did recommend installation in the southeast quadrant, as we just displayed to you, with the artist helping to advise on specific orientation of the piece as it goes in. The initial preference, as I mentioned, there's 3 symmetrical discs. Their initial preference from a visual standpoint was to have the B's disc at the top of the placement. We're in favor of moving forward under the auspice of a pilot period for the location itself to allow the commission to continue to look at the overall future of public art within the community and making sure this is the best location. Did recommend options for looking at a movable concrete base. So initially, when this was under the auspice of a pilot period, was part of that temporary art installation, it was on a metal steel plate. And so there is options to have a concrete pad that is movable. There's some examples that are utilized at the Botanical Garden, as well as some of our commissioners on the Arts Commission have experience with those. So that's something we'll look at to give it the ability to be moved, but give it a little bit more of a permanent feel while it's in place. To also evaluate opportunities for uplighting. As you'll see in a couple of the images, the piece of work is really beautiful when it's lit up in the evening, but we want to be very mindful of wildlife patterns and our dark skies, so we're going to evaluate opportunities of whether subtle lighting is an opportunity. And then also a consideration to add a plaque recognizing the artist, as well as providing education about the piece and the public art program itself. So what happens next? For next steps, we are at the top one. So this evening, you as a council will be discussing and providing direction. If you approve the piece and move forward, we would move into an agreement with the artist to transfer ownership of the piece from the artist to the city. We do have a deadline if it's approved to move this piece off the artist's property before the end of June, because they are moving, and it's important that this piece find a new permanent home. So if we do need to look at moving that within the next several weeks. And what we'll do is, based on determination tonight and looking at the site, we can either directly move it to that location, or we have the ability to temporarily store it so that we have the ability to put it in place in the right manner and setting. And then, as I mentioned, this is being proposed as a pilot period in this location, so there'll be ongoing review and feedback from the community as well as the commission. And then ultimately, when we determine the pilot period ends, is making sure that we have this piece in a final placement. So with that, I just would like again to thank the artist. I want to thank the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission for their time on this, and I want to thank the community for being part of this public art directions for you to go this evening. The recommended council action is to review the proposal and consider approval of the public art donation installation, including acceptance of the artwork and its future installation, subject to final site selection and verification of ownership documentation. Alternatively, you may approve the donation this evening, but provide different considerations, different conditions or potential locations of installation. Alternatively, you may request additional information that we could bring back to you. Again, we are under a bit of a timeline with the artist as far as moving the piece, but additional information could be brought back to you as a council, and ultimately you could opt to not accept the donation as proposed. So with that, happy to answer any questions you may have or go back to any of the information on the slides.
All right, thank you, David. Any questions? Yes, please, John.
So what I don't see here are any budget numbers or costs associated with moving this.
Yes, and so that's a good question. So a piece of this answer to that lands on ultimately where the piece is located and for what period of time. So if we're looking at a more temporary installation, so some rough numbers to do transport and installation in this location. Roughly, this is again with the artist's contributions to have the piece lifted off their piece. You're talking about somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500. That would be funded out of the public art fund, out of the existing budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
With regard to where it's placed, it's near, I can't really tell from this picture. It looks like it's pointing to a pathway. It's not on the pathway, it's on the grass. That area, during times like the 4th of July parade, there's a lot of people there. They'll be climbing all over that thing. It's a perfect place to sit to watch the parade, I mean, if I thought of it, some kid's going to think of it, right? Or some parent. So, I was just wondering if it might be, I don't know if there's if it was a little bit further back. I'm just worried about, we do have opportunities. That corner can be really congested for that parade and the lighted whatever parade and the lighting of the plaza. It's really dark before we light the plaza, so I like the idea of having some light around it. I think it's a safety feature as well as I think it will look really cool, all the shadows and everything. I'm 100% for this. I'm thrilled that we're doing this. I just want it to be in a place that's safe and that we're not going to get people so energized that they're like going to, it's going to take the project in a different direction. So have you given any thought to that, I guess is my long way of questioning.
I think excellent points, and you'll have to excuse some of my usage of the area. So it's to provide the general direction. So I do think we have flexibility within that space. So if we feel collectively that it should be pushed back a little bit further into that grassy area, that's certainly something we can take a look at. Okay. And I think to your point, right, there's going to be, we've looked at events in recent history, but there's ones where the plaza is absolutely packed, and there's people on every corner. And, that was one of our initial questions to the artist is this looks like it could be something that might be intriguing to climb on. Yeah. And so we did look at the piece, and I think, making sure that if someone were to climb on it, that A, it was sturdy enough to withstand that, and B, that there is some level of a fall zone around it, right? If someone were to fall off it. And so part of that consideration was looking at the grass area. If it became problematic with events or it was a concern, there's certain ways we could, look to indicate and barricade it off. We see it in other elements of the park where just as you mentioned, people want a good vantage point, and we have another sculpture on the more northern end of the plaza that I know gets climbed on frequently. So something that we can look at. And I think a reason that we want to look at this location as a pilot period is we think we've looked at different angles, but there's certain things that are going to come up throughout this initial period that we didn't think of, and we want to make sure that it's not problematic.
Sometimes if you think of it's like, where the other sculpture is, across from the cheese factory, the General Vallejo, that's sort of meant to be sat upon. It's a bench, right? So it's, you know, right on the walkway, and we encourage people to sit on it. So I think that's great, and it's a cool thing. I just want it to be successful. I don't want anyone to get mad about it. So.
You have that power. That's art.
It is. I think it's great. I love it.
Any other questions for staff on this item? Okay, then let's. I'd like to open it to the public to come forward and make comment, please.
I'm speaking both as a chair of the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission and also as a resident of Sonoma. My name is Connie Schleyline, and usually when I'm speaking to you, I'm saying imagine. That's my favorite word, imagine. Tonight, we don't have to imagine. Tonight, I'm astonished and delighted that during my term, we're going to have a monumental, if approved, sculpture, which happened pretty fast. And we kind of, be careful what you wish for, right? Because it just happened. And so we're pretty excited. I think I wanted to be here tonight to witness a milestone that we've come a long ways. This is the first monumental sculpture that is going to be given to the city by a single sculptor and a distinguished artist from Sonoma. If you don't know Peter Hasson, I think of him as a true Renaissance man. He not only studies the arts, but he studies history. He studies religion. He studies philosophy. He looks at human nature and he looks at Mother Nature and combines them in very powerful ways. Cycle 3, I mentioned at the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission the other day, reads like an onion. There are layers of meaning. And it kind of reminds me of what Ada Limon says. She says, she challenges us to think more deeply, to feel more deeply, and to look more deeply. And I think Peter Hasson's work does that as well. His work is highly original. All you have to do is go to a studio and see the amount of amazing diversity that he does. When Dave Jans and I visited it, it's just astonishing. I wish you all could have come because it's quite amazing. And also, I'm kind of excited about this piece because we don't have many aesthetic discussions. We don't have visual arts in our public schools at the elementary level and only at the elective level in middle and high school. Aesthetics, the discussion of art, is a very important part of talking about art. So this particular piece, as well as the General Vallejo sculpture and the new fire sculpture, gives us a chance to talk about what art is and what great art does. And I think this is a time to talk about tension in art. That this particular piece, I don't know if you watch a comedy and you notice drama comes in, or you watch drama and comedy comes in. You know, this particular piece has slices of each of them, which I think is really fascinating. And in fact, when I first saw it, it reminded me of tree rings, you know, slices of a tree that you put together in circles. And it was a slice of time. Each of these different pieces is a slice of time, from the past to the present to potentially the future. If we're not careful, there are little signs in there. There's some reality to this piece, and I don't think that hurts people to think about. So art should give you some things to discuss. So little cautionary tales are with us here too. As you know, our public and also our mayor is hungry for public art. And people have come out of the silos around our community with all these different nonprofits. We're all in collaboration now. We all want more public art. We want to improve the public spaces. And we are, I think this is really an opportunity to enhance our quality of life. And I'm really proud of the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission and also Dave Jans, because I think you have the dream team in the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission. We have expertise, passion, and wisdom. We've been talking the talk, and now we're walking the talk. We're starting to launch, and I really can feel that this piece jumpstarts that. I think this piece is an opportunity for the public to learn, engage, and interact. And I'd like to suggest that we have forums and ways to solicit response and talk about it with the public. And I know I'm way over, and I'm really sorry, but I just had to do this. So thank you, Council, the Dream Team, Cultural and Fine Arts Commission, Dave Jans, staff, and our community, and especially to Peter Hassan.
Thank you, Connie.
Wow, you had some of my time. Robert Demler, First Street West. I know you've missed me the last couple of meetings. Two things. I hope you accept this kind gift and not worry about the location. Just say, thank you, Peter, we'll have it. Because it'd be a great addition to the city. But a little background, because I have a question. How does this square with the master plan for the plaza? And I know you can't answer questions, but anyway, I want to raise that issue because about 9 years ago, I was chairman of a 5-member citizens group who gave the city a piece of public art, the Vallejo statue, which has been extremely successful. We also gave the city about $13,000 for landscaping and lighting, and I've raised that issue several times over those years, intervening, and I've always been told, well, we have to consider the plaza master plan. It's coming down the pike. So I'd like some landscaping and lighting on the old General, and I'd like some landscaping and lighting on this wonderful piece as well. So I'm going to be hammering you all about that. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Robin, Robin Reiners. I'm a resident here as of 2019. I'm on the Culture and Fine Arts Commission as of last 6 or 7 months. It's such a pleasure to be here to speak in favor of Peter Hassan's beautiful sculpture. I was introduced to him as soon as I came to the community. I did a studio tour. I was thoroughly impressed with the conceptual depth, the beauty of his work, and the just thought-provoking nature that it really surprised me that it was right here in such a beautiful place. So the idea that this could be a part of our plaza or somewhere as a public piece is just really exciting for me. My background, I've been more than 30 years in the arts. I've represented sculptors as well as painters internationally. And I find Peter's work to be not only beautiful, but really thought-provoking. I wanted to leave one quote that I was reading as I was researching. And this is a quote from Peter as he was interviewed with the installation that was in the plaza earlier in 2022. And he said, "Hope is difficult to peddle these days, and there are no easy answers. My hope is that the beauty in my work can inspire people to get off the mark and start making transformative change. I hope that we all can see that and have it be a part of our beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm not seeing much more movement, so with that, I'll close the public portion and bring him back to the dais for some discussion.
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor. You know, obviously, I can't wait to see this. It's absolutely incredible. And, you know, my comments about the location are just that, you know, I'm supportive of this sort of temporary location idea, because I think it is important. Location, you know, I mean, people who go to museums a lot, and I consider myself one of those people, the placement of things in, the placement of art is a significant part of the whole process. So, and, you know, obviously I'm concerned about safety because this is in a public place, but, you know, we'll see, you know, how it looks. I mean, I've moved the paintings around in my house several times. I'm sure people out there have done the same, and different light hits different things. So I'm definitely in favor of it, and I think the, you know, doing the I'd rather spend more money on the long run and get it in the right place than, you know, commit ourselves to something to save a nickel. So I'm all in favor of that.
Thank you. Patricia.
Yeah, I am actually very comfortable leaving. I'm so happy. It's so beautiful. I love these pieces when they were here on the plaza before, and you can't help but engage with them and be with them. So they're just so beautiful and just so amazing to look at how something so beautiful was made from human hands. So it's just incredible. But I am very comfortable leaving the placement in the hands of our commission and also of our director of Parks and Recreation. And one thing I like about that placement is that's a really busy corner for people that are just walking casually, not when there's a parade or anything. And that placement, I think what it does is it just allows the piece to really take that space. And so I think it helps this, I think it will make it stand out more, and that people will stop and look at it being there. Because, you know, people get dropped off at the other end of that sidewalk and walk directly down that sidewalk there, and then a lot of people park on the other side of the plaza and then walk up that direction. So I think it's a perfect place. So I'm just really excited. I can't say how happy we are and how generous you're being with us. So really, really appreciate it, and wish you were not leaving Sonoma. But Spain's a wonderful place.
Very good. Jack?
Thank you. I'm so passionate to support, of course, and we especially grateful for great artists. This is not only a piece of the physical sculpture, and much more than that. And you let our community get together, and with the love, and tell the people how to join the life. That is so-called invisible assets. That is the reason why and Sonoma is different from the other cities. I so much appreciate, and congratulations.
Very good. Well, I would be disappointing my colleagues if I didn't say something, because I was kind of quiet earlier. I'm extremely excited, and looking at this, that it is going to be hopefully a start of a transformational art change in the city. I love the location. I think it's got great visibility, and particularly to me, the goal is now with this first of is to maximize the celebration and to hopefully get the community very excited about just the beginning of this program. So I think that's great. I would love to see some lighting on it, and I think that with today's technology and the fact that you can now use LED lights and you can put them on transformers that can knock down the light from 100%, 90%, 80, 20, whatever, that we can dial in something that will be very complementary and will not scare the pigeons or the crows or whoever we're concerned about. I want to just caution that we do have in the works the Women's Club's desire to upgrade the Italian Plaza. And I know part of that includes replacing, I believe, some cherry trees. And all I'm asking for is that when you locate this, even on a temporary basis, that you anticipate where that might be so that it doesn't crowd the piece of sculpture, because that would not be good, nor would it want to look like it's encroaching into the Italian garden. I also would love to think that this might elicit some excitement on some of our patrons that might want to even donate money to seeing something in the flesh happening. And so I'd love to see this as a motivation for maybe some fundraising. And the harsh reality is that I think anytime you put something out in a public space, it can fall under the definition of a public or an attractive nuisance. And I would shudder to think what our outdoor public spaces would look like if that dominated the decision process and we ended up putting so much less under the fear. Not to say that I want anybody to be injured, but I think that this is great. And so I've talked about that. And then the fact that we have the opportunity to adjust location, whether it's cast in place, steel plate, or precast, all that is well within the realm of reasonable amount of expenditure. So that's great. And with that, I will turn to my cohorts and see if I might hear of a motion.
I move approval.
I'll second.
No, that's quite all right. I'm married to an artist. I live this stuff.
Well, would you like to give a third motion?
You have a second.
Okay, fine. Okay, we have a first and a second. For the discussion. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Lowe,
Aye.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas,
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney,
Yes.
Mayor Wellander.
Yes, with great appreciation to the artist.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
All right. Now we're going from something very exciting to something that is
Super exciting.
Okay, good evening again. We on the staff side table here find the budget incredibly exciting, and we're thrilled to be here tonight to present the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. This budget is both a spending plan and a policy document. It reflects the services we provide today, the priorities that the council set, and the long-term financial choices we need to continue to carefully manage and be a prudent fiscal steward of the taxpayers' dollars. Are you going to drive, or can I drive? Okay. So tonight's agenda, we'll start off with a high-level overview of key major accomplishments from the past fiscal year. I've roped the department heads into sharing these accomplishments under the categories of the council's goals for last year. Then we'll move into the proposed budget overview, the general fund, current staffing, community funding, capital projects, reserves, and the 5-year forecast. The main story tonight is that the city remains financially stable. We are also seeing the same long-term cost pressures affecting many cities, whereby revenues are growing more slowly than our expenditures. So with that background, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to kick us off with fiscal year 25-26 major accomplishments.
Thank you. So Jennifer Gates, Community Development Director. So the first slide that we're going to talk about tonight is the housing and homelessness goals. And we continue to advance and implement our housing element that we adopted in 2023. Also, we're continuing our progress on the comprehensive general plan update. We kicked off our inclusionary housing ordinance update a couple years ago, but it was delayed with the fees that we were working on. And so with that adoption, that has, we're continuing to work on that, and hopefully will conclude this year. And we also have done additional regulations to support our affordable housing production within our city. We are continuing to monitor our affordable housing inventory within the city, and with that we had identified 18 expiring affordable units, and this city council voted to allocate $250,000 from our affordable housing trust fund to provide Burbank Housing with some gap financing for the purchase of those units to continue their affordability. We also continue to collaborate regionally on housing opportunities and affordable housing solutions within the Sonoma Valley region, and strengthened our homelessness response system with new partners, including Catholic Charities, Sonoma Family Meals, Reach for Home, and Home First. Lastly, we not really last of everything we've done, but last on this list is expanded coordinated homelessness services with investments in case management, food assistance, day services, and regional housing placement efforts that are within our valley.
I'm going to be picking things up. Dave Jans, Director of Parks and Recreation. So thank you to the support of the council and the community. In August of this last year, we launched the city's first Parks and Recreation Department. As you just heard, this year was a lot of focus on this year was moving public arts initiatives forward. So launched the Utility Box Art Project and continue to work with the community and the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission on the public art proposal form and process. The Cultural and Fine Arts Commission worked closely with staff to celebrate Sonoma's cultural identity. We honored Ada Limon as the 2026 Treasure Artist. We also recognized two very young, talented artists in Sienna Miller and Cassandra Castillo as our Student Creative Artists of the Year. Worked in partnership with the Field of Dreams and the Transcendence Theater Company to enhance and create a new community space right behind us at the Field of Dreams area. Also worked in collaboration with other community partners, started some new initiatives like a new Earth Day celebration, focus on our partners' summer recreation programming, and continuation of the Tuesday night market. Picking up on that theme, continue to work with our community partners to highlight all of the great initiatives that happen in this community, and launched the community's first recreation activities guide just a few weeks ago. In the cemeteries world, we're really focusing on long-term initiatives, so looking at additional burial and inventory options, focusing on maintenance and activating volunteerism, as well as implementing a GIS mapping program, which I'm happy to share. We're continuing to work in partnership with Sonoma State University on that project in the coming year as well. And then finally, we worked in collaboration with the Community Development Department to complete a citywide tree inventory and canopy study, which we're utilizing to focus our tree planting efforts, tree planting and maintenance efforts for the next years to come. So that, I believe I'm passing it over to Christine. Ryan.
Ryan Kodama, Accounting Manager, and I'll be discussing the 25-26 major accomplishments in the economic development and fiscal sustainability goals. So strengthen the city's long-term fiscal position through the implementation of enhanced financial controls, modernize the budget system, adopted some updated fiscal policies such as the travel reimbursement and also our CalCard policies, and also preserving some healthy reserves. And we had some, achieved some competitive investment returns exceeding $46 million. That's for our investment portfolio book value. We modernized some of our financial systems, such as improving our business license administration and transient occupancy tax compliance with our third-party HDL doing some auditing for us. We improved our utility customer services and online customer access. Furthermore, we advanced some cost recovery through updating the planning and development fees and revisions to the city's master fee schedule, continued modernization of development services through permit process improvements, development code updates, and efforts to streamline entitlement and permitting procedures. Strengthen the city's organizational capacity through implementation of employee performance management systems and strategic investments in staff development and recruitment. We renewed the Sonoma Tourism Improvement District for an additional 10 years and relocated the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau to the Toscana Hotel in partnership with the California State Parks and the Bureau.
Good evening, Brandon Cutting, Chief of Police for the City of Sonoma. And as I talk about accomplishments for the police department, as we're talking about budget, obviously our most expensive piece of our department is the personnel and the staff that make it up. So I'll talk through some of these, but I'll highlight some of the staffing issues that are benefit and accomplishments that we've made this year. So the first one being Flock. Just a few months back, I stood before you and asked your permission to continue our relationship with Flock. We have used that multiple times this week alone in criminal investigations, and we are hugely successful through that program, and that is a game changer in law enforcement. On top of that, we've conducted every month, at the end of the month now, I'm conducting a complete audit of internal and external access. And I can say again, we just completed another month and we had a full passing score all the way across on our audit, as we have since the beginning. The second thing is one of our staffing, and one of the benefits to having deputies here is we have our community resource officer, which is a shared position between 75% by the city and 25% by the county. That position is mostly assigned to the schools during the school year. As we've ended that, we are transitioning into the summer months, and that position falls back into our patrol response for calls, and then we're able to align our traffic safety team back into traffic as a primary focus during the summer months. Then we're looking at our hazard mitigation and emergency response plans, and we've continued and will continue to work with the city and the county and our regional partners to make sure we're in alignment with all of the types of situations that may occur here, including fire and flood. Our Explorer Post, which is our youth organization, had fallen by the wayside back in 2018, 2019. We have brought that back, and we are a fully functioning post within the Explorer program now. And we have 6 fully vetted students, youth who are a part of that program. The first time they will be seen in our community in full uniform will be at the 4th of July celebrations, and they'll be assisting all of the law enforcement services that we have around the city. And we've also expanded our traffic enforcement. We had to take a strong look at how we are able to enforce with our existing staffing, and our traffic safety team, two deputies that are working on both traffic and calls for service, came up with an idea of having some focused and enforced areas, and so we've set 5 zones throughout the city, and that's where all of our patrol teams are focusing those efforts, so that it's not just the 2 of them. That's really benefited and helped us out with our enforcement. We are also able to, as we've talked about tonight, we are able to procure and through fully funded grant programs obtain 24 of the most beautiful orange barricades that will provide a lot of safety to all of our pedestrians when we place them in a roadway, and it is a huge asset to have, and the fact that it was funded through a UASI grant was fantastic. Then our staffing, so since 2019 and pre-COVID, the numbers, the statistics as I presented earlier this year have been coming back up gradually every year for calls for service and types of responses that we've had to have. Despite the numbers coming back up, we've maintained the same staffing levels that we went to in 2019 and 2020. And with the coordination between the sheriff's substation and the police department, I believe, and I stand by the fact that our team has become more efficient and more effective at law enforcement. At the same time, we're able to utilize the services of the partnership to fulfill some of those staffing shortfalls, I would call them, if we had not had the affiliation with the sheriff's office. But we've been able to manage that just fine. And the last thing is we have not received a Mothers Against Drug Driving award since 2016. One of our deputies who's assigned to the police department, Todd Stankus, is receiving that award at the end of July from them. And it's an honor, and it's a very service-driven position that he's been able to obtain approximately 30 DUIs in a 12-month period, which is fairly significant. And with that, I will turn it over to, I believe, Chief Akre.
Thank you, Chief Cutting. Good evening again. So I realized as I was going through looking at the accomplishments, the major accomplishments in 25-26 for fires, that I already hit on most of them previously, unknowingly, but did so. So in the interest of time and not ever liking to be repetitive, there's just three things that I want to kind of highlight. One is that our community engagement, our public education, community preparedness, we do a lot of engagement with the communities, with the schools. We do CPR training through all 7th graders. We do youth emergency preparedness and senior emergency preparedness. We've also added additional AED stations that we all know how effective they can be throughout our community. I want to touch on, I know I mentioned that we have 2 Explorer posts. Both of them are fully functioning and have waiting lists for interested youth to experience what it's like to be in the fire and EMS world. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is super successful last year, and we're really looking forward to this year, is the 4th of July celebration that our volunteer association and district put on for the community. So with that, I will turn it. There's another picture of our public art project, and I will turn it over to Ashley.
Thank you, Chief Akre. The fiscal year 25-26 accomplishments for Public Works. We've been really busy this year, and we're really happy to report that. We planned, designed, and completed the installation of a camera and key card door lock entry system at 4 city-owned facilities to enhance infrastructure, safety, and security. Council approved that project the same night as they approved the flock cameras for Chief Cutting, so we were able to implement that very quickly. We advanced the Go Sonoma bicycle and citywide pedestrian improvement project to improve multimodal transportation, safety, and neighborhood connectivity. We completed 2 paving projects in the city. The West Main Street Rehabilitation Project was completed in November of 2025, and this also established a portion of West Main Street as a Tier 1, or as a bike boulevard, which is a Tier 1 active transportation project in our adopted active transportation plan. And then we also recently completed a pavement rehabilitation project at Friar Creek Drive, Pickett Street, and Nash Street. So those have all been completely repaved. Those are projects that have been, the West Main Street project was adopted last budget cycle. The Friar Pickett Nash project has been on the books for the last few years, so we're happy to have completed that. And then we also advanced environmental sustainability initiatives through the hiring of a sustainability coordinator and continued implementation of climate action strategies. And then the next slide, we also dedicated the France Street Bridge in honor of former Mayor Larry Murphy, recognizing his contributions to the community. We, with the help of Sarah Tracy, our wonderful public information official, launched the city's first online traffic hazard reporting form, allowing residents to share concerns about speeding and other traffic safety issues through an online form. We continue to work with the Sonoma County Transit Agency on the installation of an electric bus charger at the city's corporation yard and advancing the city's green energy goals. We have successfully implemented the city's upgraded advanced metering infrastructure meters. This is one of the largest CIPs the Public Works Department has done in the last few years, and has provided more accurate water consumption data, leading to more accurate billing. The fleet and facilities assessments are currently ongoing to assure long-term financial stability for the city's fleet program and facilities maintenance and capital planning. And then as of this week, we launched a storm drain condition assessment request for proposals. This will help us look into our storm drain system and figure out where we have any failures and the overall condition of a few spots in the city. So, thank you. I'll pass it off.
Good evening again. The city, over the past year, we've made some significant progress in strengthening transparency, accountability, and community engagement. The key accomplishments included, I'm not going to go into this first one too much because we talked about it earlier, the transition to district elections, and then preparing for the November election. We modernized public access through the implementation of a new records system as well as a public portal for records requests, Laserfish and Next Request. And we established a more comprehensive records retention schedules across all city departments to allow for better legal compliance. We expanded the communication and engagement efforts around critical city initiatives and community programs, such as the housing programs, public art, emergency preparedness efforts, and others. And that's not only been recognized locally, but it's been recognized statewide with the 2 Capio EPIC Awards for Excellence in Public Communication. Thank you to, as stated already, our wonderful PIO. And we've also...
Sorry, who was that?
Sarah Tracy.
Thank you.
And we've also enhanced the organizational effectiveness as covered in the financial slide through improved employee systems such as the employee evaluation system, and then continued investment in professional development in our employees.
So I think it's really important that we just pause and celebrate the inordinate, incredible amount of work that this team here at the city does. I'm incredibly impressed in working with the team to put these accomplishments together. It's something to be really, really proud of. So appreciate being able to be here tonight to share that as we leap into the next fiscal year of all the next things that the city's poised to accomplish. So to kick off fiscal year 26-27 budget, just to give a little background in where we are in the process, the kickoff was in March. We're in phase 4, which is tonight presenting the consideration adoption of the proposed budget. Before I get into the numbers, though, I also want to recognize the incredible amount of work that's gone into developing the budget and all the number crunching. I want to thank the city team, especially Ryan Kodama, for the tireless hours he has put in over the last few months, getting this budget before you this evening, as well as spending a lot of time supporting me and getting up to speed and answering many, many questions. So let's see. The budget approach. So we're still in this realm of managing uncertainty. We're using conservative assumptions for both revenue and expense projections. We've delayed a few capital improvement projects to reduce the annual deficit. We're going to look further into evaluating the EMS billing revenues and the reduction in that area and explore more cost-saving solutions and new ongoing revenue sources. Just to reflect the 2026 council goals that were adopted earlier this year, so the focus on housing, parks, arts, recreation, community services, economic development, and financial stability, Sonoma Valley Regional Partnerships, unification, immigration and annexations, and climate mitigation and adaptation. Let's see. Okay, so the national economic outlook. At the national level, the economy continues to grow, but there are signs of slowing and continued uncertainty. Inflation has improved, but prices remain high. Interest rates are still elevated, and hiring has moderated in some sectors. For Sonoma, those national trends matter because they influence consumer spending, including wine sales, which we know are dipping, tourism, construction activity, and the cost of providing services. If we look at the state, we're seeing a similar story, continued growth, but at a more moderate pace with long-term budget pressures still present. Housing costs, insurance costs, labor costs, and unemployment trends all affect local economies and local government revenues. There's also pension-related legislative proposals that could increase future costs for cities, so we are continuing to watch those closely. Operating and capital improvement program budget overview. The all funds budget proposed is 46.3 million, which is an increase of about 1.6 million or 3.6% over the prior fiscal year. Within that, the general fund includes about 29.1 million in revenues and 30.2 million in expenditures, resulting in a projected deficit of approximately $1.1 million. Our operating costs are up 10%, driven largely by utilities, insurance, inflation on services and materials. So just to kind of big picture look at the numbers on the citywide expenditures, just going to focus you on the percentage change versus the amended year budget. So if you're looking at the bottom line column, the proposed 26-27 budget is 46.3, which is 1.7 million less than the amended budget of 48 million. But if you look back to the adopted budget, there's kind of 2 points of comparison that tell a slightly different story. If you compare the 46 million in the current proposed budget with the original adopted budget from 25-26, it's approximately $2 million increase. On the revenue side, we have a similar phenomena. The dollar amount change in this in the proposed 26-27 in comparison to the amended is $1 million less. But again, if you compare that to the original adopted budget, it's $1 million more. So to look at our general fund revenue outlook, transit occupancy tax is trending flat at 0.4% increase. Property tax is up about 6%, and sales tax down 2.5%. Just to speak a little bit more on the TOT, tourism remains one of Sonoma's greatest strengths. In current year, TOT revenues are performing better than they were originally budgeted, although projected to be flat in the next few years. We're recommending a conservative forecast for next year because statewide lodging demand is expected to remain relatively flat, and international visitor growth forecasts have been reduced. Fiscal year 26-27 budget assumes TOT of about 6.5 million, which again is essentially flat from the current year projection. So this is a trend chart on the TOT, which is where you see the jump in 24-25 and then kind of heading down in 25-26 and across that flat line, the 0.4 and 0.5 in the out years. Property tax remains the city's most stable and predictable major revenue source. Property values in Sonoma remain strong. The median sales price reported at approximately $1.47 million for the period ending March 30 of 26. At the same time, higher mortgage rates and low inventory may continue to reduce turnover, which can slow growth in the tax roll under Prop 13. This is the property tax trend and projection over the years. You'll see it bumps up to 6% and then levels off to around 4.2 in the out years. It shows the relative stability of property tax compared to some of our more economically sensitive revenues. That growth is helpful, but it's not enough in itself to offset the cost pressures we're seeing in other parts of our budget. Sales tax is the revenue source we're watching most closely because it is highly sensitive to consumer spending and local economic conditions. The forecast shows declines in business and industry, which is also reflective of the wine industry and consumer goods, while restaurants and hotels remain essentially flat. Measure T/now V is expected to generate about $5 million and will remain, I want to make sure I'm on the right slide, and will remain relatively stable because it benefits from a broader tax base, including online vehicle sales, while the Bradley Burns revenues are limited to taxable sales within city limits only. Here's the sales tax trend and projection. It shows the recent increase from Measure TV and the projected moderation in sales tax growth going forward. The combined sales tax is projected to be slightly lower in 26-27 than the current year projection, and the takeaway is that although this measure has provided important stability, we still need to be cautious because traditional local sales tax activity is softening. So on to the general fund overview. You'll see, again, the revenues at 29 million, expenditures at 30.1 million, which leaves us with a $1.1 million deficit this year. This slide highlights the proposed new one-time general fund requests, which total $460,000. These are not ongoing operating commitments. They're targeted investments and planning elections, community programs, recruitment, and streetlight replacement work. The largest item is the Plaza Recreation and Transportation Study, which supports both parks and economic development priorities. So our transfers out of the general fund this year, in addition to the operating expenditures, of course, the general fund also supports important transfers to other funds. These transfers include funding for the Housing Trust Fund, Public Art Fund, sidewalk repair, Valley Cemetery expansion, long-term building maintenance, vehicle replacement, and technology systems. When combined with the one-time requests, total one-time requests and transfers out approximately $2.4 million. We had a great budget workshop a few weeks ago, and at that time there were a few adjustments made, so I just wanted to call those out. Staff incorporated the council direction and updated several assumptions. The total increase is approximately $123,000, primarily related to expanding the Plaza study scope, updated dental insurance rates, and additional city support for high employee insurance premiums that were thrust upon us this year. Those increases were partially offset by payroll and health plan coverage changes, including employees moving to lower cost plans or changing coverage levels. This next slide shows us the full range of general fund revenues, from our largest tax revenues to smaller but still important categories like permits, fees, rents, fines, and reimbursements. Obviously, the largest sources remain sales tax, TOT, property tax, and EMS revenues. Seeing the full list is helpful because it shows that while the city has multiple revenue sources, the budget is still heavily dependent on a small number of major revenues. General fund income by source. This slide explains some of the year-over-year revenue changes behind the chart. The biggest reduction is in EMS revenue, which appears to be returning closer to a normal call volume after a higher than usual year. May also be affected by Medicare reimbursement, uncertainty in insurance, and certain insurance write-downs. Other changes include lower parking fines, higher event-related charges and sponsorships, lower interest revenue assumptions, and the effect of prior year budget amendments that increased transfers from reserves. Looking at general fund expense by department, fire and police are the two largest areas of spending, which reflects the city's commitment to core public safety services. Other significant areas include parks and recreation, streets maintenance, community activities, planning, building, city manager's office, finance, and transfers out. General fund expenditures by department. Overall, general fund expenditures are increasing by about $1.45 million or 5% compared with the adopted fiscal year 25-26 budget, and the increase is driven by a combination of public safety contracts, staffing and benefits, insurance, and other operating costs. The next slide shows you a pie chart version of general fund expenditures by type. Again, the largest categories are our personnel. We also have professional services and the PERS unfunded liability costs in there. Next slide, general fund expenditures by type. This slide explains some of the major expenditure types. Again, personnel reflect COLA and insurance premiums, but are also moderated by workers' comp savings and some new employees starting at lower salary steps. Professional services are down, sheriff contract cost declined, and transfers to capital funds are lower, while operations increase due to repair and maintenance, permits, fees, taxes, and other services. Okay, general fund budget comparisons over prior year. This slide tells the story really of the budget from where we were last year to where we are now. Compared to the current amended budget, expenditures are projected to increase by only 0.7%, while revenues are projected to decline by 1.6%. But when compared to the budget originally adopted a year ago, expenditures have grown by 5.4%, while revenues have grown only by 0.8%. That gap illustrates the city's structural challenge, whereby costs are growing faster than recurring revenues. The city is financially stable, but this is the trend we need to continue addressing over time. This is the city's current staffing. You'll see there's one new part-time recreation coordinator included, and that is to continue the goals in the new Parks and Rec department. This is the total number of FTEs. I'll just note that the Public Works water position going from 16 to 15, that is just a correction in the position control. That's not an actual reduction in staffing. Okay, to Recreation and Community Fund Program. This program reflects the council's long-term commitment to supporting community organizations that provide recreation services and programming to residents. The proposed budget maintains funding for Tier 1 partners, including Sonoma Ecology Center, Boys and Girls Clubs, Sonoma Community Center, Vintage House, Field of Dreams, and Sonoma County Transit. So there are $346,000 available in total funds, $237,500 of which go to the existing partner agreements. And then this is the total after the Finance Committee considered the recommendations from staff on this. An additional $94,000 to fund nonprofits, up to $3,000 each in grants. There's good news, all 34 agencies that submitted proposals are being funded in the proposed budget. And then there's $15,000 that remains for council discretion. Just a quick summary of homelessness services funding, a similar, same dollar amount as last year. The city's investment is $275,000 to support Catholic Charities Day Services and Case Management, Sonoma Family Meals, and the Regional by Name List program through Sonoma County. This focus is on practical outcomes, basic services, coordinated case management, and regional collaboration to help people move onto permanent housing. So the CIP, the Capital Improvement Program, in a nutshell, this slide is a summary by program area that shows you the major projects: Olson Park, Montini Preserve, 5th Street West Park, and Valley Cemetery expansion in the parks area, pavement rehab, slurry seal, sidewalk repairs, safety improvements and streetlights in streets and transportation, water pipe assessment, Norbom tank coating renewal in the water infrastructure line item, facilities improvement project for $150,000. Drainage and flood control, there's a flood reduction trash capture project that is likely, and I think surely, at this point we haven't received the funding, but to be funded through a landfill settlement. That there's a fund for the landfill that the city's been contributing to for years, and they've assessed that fund, and there's available funding to return to the city because it's essentially overfunded. So the total CIP for this fiscal year is proposed at $1.73 million. I want to speak briefly on the general fund reserves and then the 5-year forecast. So if the council were to adopt the current proposed budget, it would reduce the reserves to $15.2 million from $16.3 in the prior year. That still leaves $8.6 million in undesignated reserves for special projects, the $1.5 million in emergency reserve, and the $5.1 million in operating reserves. I just wanted to speak a little bit before I go into the 5-year forecast on what the assumptions are that are going into that forecast. Many of these are repetitive to what I've already gone through, but just to give you a snapshot on what the projections will include. Gone over everything in the core revenues and TOT. The franchise fees, we're predicting a 2% increase. Business license permits and fees at 2%. Fines and forfeitures at 2%. Similarly with interest and rents, EMS revenue. That's somewhat conservative because we still have this major fluctuation in EMS revenue in billings that we're trying to sort through. On the expenditure side, we looked at projecting 3% for the next fiscal year, 3.5% in 28, 29, and through the end of the labor agreement. Pension and public safety, all these numbers are really hard to guess, but to be a little bit more on the conservative side, we went with 2% on the CalPERS unfunded liability for 27, 28, and then 4% thereafter. The fire contract, an estimate of 5%. It's hard for us to know because the current labor negotiations is ongoing with the fire department, and we won't know what the outcome of that compensation increase will be for, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe, hopefully, maybe a couple months, and we'll have to return to the council with that information. And then estimating the police contract at 5%. We'd hope neither one of these would be this high, but we think it's a fair bet to be on the conservative side. Operating cost escalators at 3%. And then here's the graph. So Where we're at, just, looking backwards, you can see that in 22-23, 24-25, and 25-26, we were in the green and moving in the right direction as it relates to the expenditure revenue relationship. In 26-27, we're projecting that $1.1 million deficit. With the assumptions I just mentioned, the 27-28 projected budget would have a $1.5 million deficit, 28-29, a $1.8 million deficit, 29-30, a $2.2 million deficit, and 30-31, a $2.7 million. So you see the gap widening between the revenue and expense lines, not in the direction we would prefer. So projected over the next 4 years, there could be, and based on these assumptions, an $8.2 million reduction in reserves over the next 4 years, which really lends itself to, we're not in an immediate crisis. We remain financially stable with even the strong reserves at the end of these 4 years, but it means we really need to continue working on more long-term solutions, including expenditure management, service prioritization, and finding new, stable, ongoing revenue sources. So what are our next steps? If the council were to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 budget tonight, we would compile the budget book, review the actuals at mid-year, and make any necessary adjustments to the budget and the 5-year forecast. The Finance Committee met twice prior to the budget workshop, and thank you very much for that time and great feedback. The direction to staff was to reevaluate the general fund reserve policy and come back to the council with some options, and again, to explore new ongoing revenues. So before you tonight, there are a number of recommended actions. They include the adoption of the operating budget, adoption of the 5-year capital improvement program, authorization of carry forward of one-time funds that were not spent in 25-26. They include the approval and creation of a new job classification for recreation coordinator and adoption of that job description and salary for the position, as well as a resolution to establish the appropriations limit for fiscal year 26-27. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
That was a lot, but we've seen it. May not like it, but we've seen it. Any questions for staff, please? Seeing none, then I'm going to turn and open up to the public for a comment. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. And before we continue, Mr. Ruderman, would you give us some advice on the best way to handle this, because we have multiple items?
If you don't have any changes to any of the items, I think of one motion, as long as you reference all of the resolutions, would be adequate.
So would you like to take back the comment that we can do it simpler? Patricia? You didn't think we could do it? Oh.
I didn't think we'd do it all.
Hey. Okay, well, let's bring it back for some discussion, though. Is there any?
I got to get up at 5. So.
Is there any discussion regarding proposed changes to any one of the resolutions, contrary to what is being recommended?
I just want to make a comment before we do this, is that so it doesn't seem like we're abruptly approving this budget. We've been in many meetings about this budget, and we've seen it several times and had, discussions with our city manager about the budget. So we have really had, a really in-depth look and discussions about this budget already. So I'm happy to make a motion to approve fiscal year 26-27 City of Sonoma operating and capital improvement budget with the following resolutions. A resolution of the City Council of City of Sonoma and successor agency of the former Sonoma Community Development Agency adopting fiscal year 26-27 City of Sonoma operating budget and approving community funding program. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma adopting the 26-31 5-year capital improvement program and authorizing capital project funds appropriated and unspent in fiscal year 2025-26 to be rolled into fiscal year 26-27 budget. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma authorizing the interim city manager to approve the carry-forward operational funds for one-time projects appropriated and unspent in fiscal year 2025-26 to be rolled into fiscal year 2026-27 budget. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma authorizing the interim city manager to fund Recreation and Community Service Discretionary Funding Program for the fiscal year 2026-27 budget. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma approving and creating a new job classification for a recreation coordinator part-time position and adopting the job description and salary range for the position, and a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sonoma establishing an appropriations limit for the fiscal year 26-27.
Second.
Further discussion?
That's great. Before we vote, can I make general
Further
comments?
discussion.
Yeah.
Further discussion.
Yeah, a little bit. First of all, we appreciate staff, Christine and Ryan and the whole team. Yeah, that is fantastic. We were a little bit concerned at the beginning because of short time. And overall, we are running, we are balanced. However, this is not, really balanced. We are using our reserved funds. I hope, sooner or later, next year at this time, we will have a chance to be in the break even. So at that time, I would request we need to replenish it and actual one, return it back our reserve fund. So for sure, we want to prepare ourselves for another worst time. Right now, a lot of the uncertainties, really, we don't know how to handle. And overall, our city, look, we are balanced, but actually it's not really balanced. So it reminded me, our residents in the city, and I think most probably same situation. I think around 20% of the residents depends on Social Security income and very modest annuity or retirement. That is very, very dangerous. So but anyway, the federal government never catch up for those kind of price increase, and the COLA increase by the Social Security just only 2% or 3% something. So reminded me, if our local government, city government can do something, help these kind of low-income people, senior families, they don't have any chance, potential, generated more income to catch up. So really is the issue. For example, and we on the co-worker mentioned about bus, free the bus, or if any in the chance on the water, if any in the favorable the rate continuously and support those kind of, because they are our neighbors, they are all our taxpayers. We can thinking about that, treat all the residents, and not only, just we pass the budget, and in this way, and every day-to-day work, we always thinking about that. Maybe our residents can feel that better and live the better. Yeah, that is my comments. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? I do want just one clarification regarding adopting the 2025-30 5-year capital improvement program. Is that conceptual? Is that fixed? Is there flexibility with my concern expressed earlier?
Yeah, every year there'll be a revisitation of what that specific fiscal year budget proposed projects will be, based on available funding, based on council priorities. So you'll get a chance to revisit in the next budget cycle.
Very good. And then my only other comment is I do want to recognize again the incredible amount of work that everybody's put forth on that, including our in-house finance committee. So thank you. And
Just
with that,
one very quick.
Okay.
I just want to say, although inflation, core inflation is easing, inflation, including energy and food prices, is up about 1.3% over what it's been. And then so and I've said this many times, but we'll say it again, it's something I think as members of the Economic Development Committee, Councilmember Gurney and I can do, is make sure that we're re-establishing the Economic Development Committee so we can start looking at the other side, like what we need to do is how do we raise revenues? So we're on that. I just want the public to be aware that we're on that. We're not taking this lightly. Thank you.
So, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Lowe. Aye. Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Farrar-Rivas.
Aye.
Councilmember Gurney.
Yes.
Mayor Wellander.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
There is no need for a second public comment period, and with great joy, I say we're adjourned.